Yo, 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 chat. What's up? It's your buddy, it's your pal, it's your friend. It is Michael from Pennsylvania. Wow, do we have a stream for you today? First things first, Mike was right. In fact, they were faster than I thought. I told you about I was practicing my don't be arrogant to the chat yesterday because somebody was like, it's gonna take them forever to replace Graham. Don't you know about blah blah blah? Remember that? And they were like, oh, Mitch McConnell. And then 5 minutes after stream, they're like, oh yeah, we're appointing Lindsey Graham's sister. Oh, I do have a typo. God damn it. Thank you, chat. Member. Yeah, no errors, so sister will do. I mean, it's like the most obvious. Isn't it disgusting how much Israel controls our government? Like, it's actually scary. It is a scary thing to realize. It is, they're feudalizing our entire governmental system. Normalizing family members taking over government positions. So anyway, what else are we talking about today? The Iran war is restarting. Iran claims to have killed 3 U.S. service members. Oil has spiked, what, $15 in 2 days? Donald Trump just notified Congress that the war is restarting, so I guess it's the new 60-day war countdown. SpaceX is dumping. Oh my God, we were we completely right? Okay, well, it's still no. It's good. It had a good day today. It's up today, but it started out IPO day at 152. It's only been 2 weeks. It's only been a week, rather. I'm sorry. IPO day was 160. Imagine having bought SpaceX at $201 a month ago. Oh, man. Here are the DSA candidates your supporters need to be volunteering to make phone calls, knock on doors, and do other fun tasks before the next election on August 4th. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I need to bring some people on. Mike, I'm falling in love with a girl. How much time do you think I'll have before we end up in camps? Why don't you just teach her how to have your back, man? You know, maybe you could do like a Bonnie and Clyde thing, you know, where you avoid going to the camp, you know? Like, come on, man. You have some romance. The fuck? Check IBM stock. Didn't Trump just say buy IBM, or did he say buy Dell? He said buy Dell, right? Shares of International Business Machines. As soon as they start talking about the technicals, like, oh, it's outside the Bollinger Bands, you know that shit is not good. Is this good, chat? Is it good when your stock market goes down, that your stock goes down 72 points? No, what else are we talking about today? Okay, well, ICE murdered an innocent man in Maine in the most brutal fashion in front of everyone, and there's a massive, protests happening. Of course, the Gestapo, we have Haley Stevens thanking ICE. We have all these scumbags thanking ICE. Obviously the Iran war is restarting. We have some fun slop with Hasanabi and more making fun of MOREPEGASUS. Lindsey Graham's sister is appointed, and before we go on, maybe I should save this for later for good vibes. You know what, chat? Let's do a preview for for those of you who are here nice and early. The nice and early crew deserve more. You know? The nice and early crew is forming a union. Yeah, you guys are the real ones. AKA East Coasters, because none of you motherfuckers are West Coasters waking up. You lazy sacks of shit. No, I'm in Oregon. Okay, well, somebody give Brobot a sub. He's up here. He's here early. The nice and early crew deserve waffles. Hell yeah. Okay, nice and early crew. This is one of the best, most hilarious stories. Fran's gonna win. Fran is gonna win. This made my entire... So, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the establishment was trying to unify behind the lieutenant governor. But this morning it came out, her entire campaign has failed. It is the most hilarious shit I've ever seen. Okay, hold on. I thought I opened it, but probably didn't. All right, hold on. We've got all the good stuff. Oh, is it funny? It's so good. So Sarah Rodriguez, who's running against Fran, has released a statement saying that she fired her campaign manager after discovering serious mismanagement and inaccuracies in campaign finance filings she prepared. Now, I want you to understand something, chat, that, back in the day, it used to be a little bit more difficult to have your campaign financing, set up because you probably needed to have a professional or you had to be super conscientious. We had to learn a lot about, you know, the reports and accounting and making sure that you have everything correct. But now we have software where everything is plug and play. You sign up for NGP, you sign up for ActBlue, you get a merchant account, you know, maybe you pay a little bit for the services, but it's all plug and play. It's easy. It auto generates the reports. It's not very hard. Okay. Like, it's actually pretty easy. Campaign finance reports for the Wisconsin's governor's race are due this week. And so this is what happened.
I trusted her to do the job that I had hired to. She had done for her entire career, and I regret placing my trust in that.
What does that say about you as a leader?
It says that when I find something, I take immediate action. When I found...
Bro, what does it say about you as a leader? Well, you know, listen, my closest ally is totally incompetent, and my campaign is completely broke because of it. But you can trust me with my entire state. Holy shit. When I saw this yesterday, chat, I like jumped out of my chair and I showed it to Vio. I think I might have even retweeted it on my TikTok because it made me laugh so fucking much. Oh, maybe I didn't. Maybe I just liked it. I'm really bad at like liking stuff. I gotta make sure I actually push the button instead of just like it in my head. God damn it. But anyway, let's keep going.
That there were discrepancies and inaccuracies.
Oh, we have a hype train. Hell yeah, brother.
In that report, I immediately took action to bring people. This was literally from Thursday when I found out permanently, like when I found out what was going on within the, it is Monday today.
It took 6 months though to get to this.
Because I was continually getting inaccurate reports from my campaign. I trusted her to do the job.
This is so good for us. It's not even funny.
Well, major developments in the race for governor tonight. Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez abruptly firing her campaign manager overnight, accusing her of financial.
The establishment in Wisconsin is running around on fire because they had been lining up behind Sarah, but after dumping millions on her in ads and endorsing her, she is still a distant third, and this scandal has crippled her campaign. The whole reason they were lining up behind her was because they correctly saw Barnes as a dogshit campaigner with a hard ceiling that would lose to Hong, and now they're stuck. No, that's what I'm saying. Fran's gonna win. Fran's gonna win because the establishment also doesn't like Barnes. So they kind of like divided themselves and they can't coalesce. And Fran, because she's DSA and because of her connections to me and Hassan, was able to build up her own independent grassroots campaign funded by the National Progressive Movement and the strong progressive DSA movement from Madison and Milwaukee. So they're super fucking cooked. And she's broke. Like, she's broke. You can't do ads if you don't have any money.
Mismanagement. Political director Matt Smith is live in Madison tonight. Matt, Rodriguez.
I've worked on campaigns with huge budgets. I can tell you with 99% certainty that you don't misreport this money on accident. This came from the top. Also, like, I'm sorry, but even if you are doing a shitty job and you have NGP, you know what I mean? Like, and you don't have an accountant and you're just like taking your checks and your bank statements and your, you know, ActBlue and you reconcile it automatically. You know, you reconcile it automatically. It's not that hard, right? Like, what the fuck? Mike, your current hype trade started at level 3. Don Lemon had a level 1 treasure train and couldn't get it to level 2. But that's funny. Yeah, I know, of course, because he's not part of Twitch culture.
At a news conference just a short time ago.
Ryan should run for U.S. House, but I guess next time. Yeah, no, I would love for Ryan to run for the House soon. I was talking to Vio and I was like, what if we move to Wisconsin, Vio? Come on, let's move to Wisconsin. Lakefront property. Come on. You don't want to do that? Yeah, I know. Yes, move to Milwaukee. Yes.
Blake, this is a major blow to this campaign now, less than a month out from the August primary. Sarah Rodriguez tonight saying her longtime campaign manager double count.
And it's like, I could have my own Hassan level mansion in Wisconsin.
Some donations, mismanaged finances in what could be a defining moment tonight for this campaign and the Democratic primary for governor. Inside her crowded campaign headquarters in Madison Monday afternoon, a defiant Lieutenant Governor.
There's a handful of progressive challengers in Michigan that are currently not getting attention but have a good shot, could use a boost. That's probably going to happen soon, actually. I need to talk to the Denver people, but I think for the most part, like, I gotta be honest with you, chat, like, with something like the stream, you always have to balance these things, right? Like, there's a lot of people who don't do a lot of electoral work, and when Hassan and I do it, it does damage the like momentum of our channel. So we have to like balance. We have to balance those things, right? Like the momentum of your channel versus how much like boring work you can do. Because for a lot of people, they don't find it entertaining, and so it damages your ability to continue. So it's always a balance of like, how much capacity does my channel have to like help people? You know what I mean? So I'm trying to like stay afloat, try to keep the momentum up. We only have so much money. We only have so much time in our community. So if I was Hassan, I would do more. But I also like, I'm doing what I believe is like the most we can do so that when we actually help, it's impactful. Because the worst thing is to like bring a candidate on and then they don't really get anything out of it and it looks bad for everybody. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to balance what I can do. I'm new here. I assume you guys are big fans of liberal icon Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer probably wants me dead. You know what I mean? Like Chuck Schumer, if he had a button and it was zap Mike from PA with a gun, he would almost certainly do that.
Sarah Rodriguez vowing to stay in the Democratic primary for governor, hours after firing her longtime campaign manager. Do you believe she took any of this money, or did this money actually never exist?
We are continuing to review what is going on.
Tonight, ahead of a key financial deadline, Rodriguez says she discovered last week her campaign manager was double counting some contributions, leaving the campaign with hundreds of thousands of dollars less than believed, and now have forwarded the findings to the Wisconsin Ethics Commission.
Incredible. So she's totally broke. And the reason she found out she was broke is none of her television ads were going on TV. And she was like, wait, where's my television ads? And the campaign manager was like, oh, I don't know. It'll be happening any day now. I'm talking to the TV show. So she doesn't have any. So she's fucking cooked. The only way these establishment people can win is by flooding the zone with bullshit ads that lie about how progressive they are and having low information boomers turn out and vote for them because of a name recognition gap. And that's what's happening with Abdul, right? Like the division in Michigan is between Abdul El Sayed, which is a legitimate grassroots campaign that everybody who learns about the race in a neutral manner absolutely loves, right? Versus $50 million from the state of Israel to buy our elections. Now, the crisis that we have, and honestly, like, you know, listen, I gotta be honest with you. I think this is treason. I think the vast majority of our political class are treasonous. And this is not a conspiracy theory. I just think it is, when you talk about what is treason, it is taking aid and comfort and providing aid and comfort to the enemy against the interests of the United States. That's fundamentally what it is. All these people that take AIPAC money are traitors in a literal sense. And like the fact that neither one of our parties could just point this out and say, hey, it's really bad that Republican Zionists are spending $50 million in our primary to hopefully elect a weaker general election candidate who's an agent of a foreign state. Like that should be a crime, like prison time crime. You know, I disagree with a lot of people in DSA because I don't consider myself personally an abolitionist. And the reason why I say that is I believe in criminal justice reform. I believe in decarceration. I believe in a lot of almost pretty much every plank of the abolition movement, except for the part of total abolition, which for the current time we're in, we need to start putting these Zionists, these traitors, in prison for treason and genocide and fomenting war crime. And maybe that's just like me feeling a certain type of like vengeful way. But I think that, you know, maybe vengeance is not the worst thing for people that are selling their country out to kill kids. I guess I do feel a little vengeful about that. I'm not going to lie.
I trusted her to do the job that I had hired her to do, that she had done for her entire career. And I regret placing my trust in that individual.
What does that say about you as a leader?
It says that when I find something, I take immediate action.
It took 6 months, though, to get to this point.
Because I was continually getting inaccurate reports from my campaign finance person for my campaign manager.
Rodriguez has widely been considered among the top 3 candidates in the race, alongside Francesca Hong and Mandela Barnes. Tonight, the primary just weeks away, and her opponents blasting the revelations.
If she is the candidate, if she is the nominee for the Democratic Party this fall, we will spend the fall defending her mismanagement and what's gone on this campaign, on the campaign finance issues.
Certainly stunning developments that begin this week. Matt, you mentioned we're 29 days away from Election Day. What is the state of Rodriguez's campaign this evening?
So, Blake, campaign finance reports for all candidates are due Wednesday. This is a significant moment. Rodriguez today did acknowledge her campaign has about $200,000 cash on hand. That is not a lot headed into this final sprint. She was supposed to have $1 million ad buy, according to a press release recently from her campaign that her campaign manager, Rodriguez, said put out. That is no longer happening. We have reached out to that campaign manager tonight for comment and have not heard back.
All right, political director Matt Smith live in Madison on the big story this evening. Thank you, Matt.
I don't know what else to say. Sorry, chat. I'm sorry for the 10-15 seconds of dead air there, because I should have typed this on screen. I was saying, hey, DSA people, we are likely to have our first ever nominee for governor, Francesca Hong, because the establishment candidate has just fired her campaign manager for serious campaign finance violations. Sheriff of Wisconsin's campaign is totally broke and mismanaged. Let's go. Because I want to say, in part, comma. And like, I don't know what else to say, but we just keep winning on the Central Committee stream. You know what else to say? Yeah, join Fran's campaign. We've already raised her $35,000, which, by the way, I'm going to put into the link. Hold on. I don't know, chat. I might have to move to Wisconsin. And you know, get hired to her administration. I'm gonna call her up and be like, Francesca, time to hire me. I want to work for Wisconsin. I'm coming in. I'm carpetbagging in. Please help. Please donate. Post. So far, we have raised for her campaign $35,000. I mean, this is the minimum, right? Because I'm sure some of you have donated through me. You went onto their lists and then you gave them another couple bucks in like emails and shit that they sent you or texts. So this is like the money we directly raised during stream where you use the link, right? Like, promote the volunteer link too. Sure. Whatever. Yeah. Volunteer. Of course. Anyway, all I'm going to say is Francesca Hong, our first ever gubernatorial campaign. I just want to say, I was the one of all the streamers. I was the one who saw her potential first, and she was here first. I mean, well, if she pulls this off, will any other streamer have a W like that? Will any other streamer have a W like that? Any other streamer? That'll be the biggest political W for political streaming on Twitch by far. No, because you gloated like that, Mike. Oh, okay. I'm just saying. Let me be excited. Hey, Lisa, thank you for the raid. Can I not be excited? All right, let's, I just wanted to talk about that, chat. Huge W for us. Fran's gonna win. But let's see. Iran war restarting. Breaking. Iran war restarting. U.S. troops killed. Not great. Not something we want to see. The war starting is not good. The only W to surpass it will be Oliver Larkin. Listen. I love Oliver Larkin. I am not taking anything away from Oliver Larkin. We're going to work our little butts off for Oliver, right? But a governor of a state as important as Wisconsin, winning would be the most important thing we've ever done in DSA, short of winning the presidency. Francesca Hong would instantaneously become the most senior socialist in America. Zelensky resigned? What the fuck? What is today? Okay, he didn't resign. Zelensky announces leadership shuffle as war turns in Ukraine's favor. They forced the PM to resign. Okay, interesting. Let's talk about the war happening. This is not good. And then we'll talk about the ICE shooting, which is insane.
The United States carried out a third consecutive night of strikes on targets across Iran as the fight over the Strait of Hormuz intensifies. The latest round of attacks came just hours after President Trump said he would reinstate the naval blockade of ships traveling to and from Iranian ports in the key waterway. The president also suggested the U.S. will, quote, become the guardian of the strait for a fee equal to 20% of the value of a ship's cargo.
I have never in my life, like, my God, dude, that's worse than what the fucking mob charges for protection. The mob doesn't go into a business and say, give us 20% of your take. What the fuck?
That comes despite
because they know the business will fail.
Administration previously insisting there should be no fees.
They'd be like, we'll take 10% of your profits, or you know what I mean?
Upending centuries of U.S. support for global freedom of navigation.
It's an international waterway. No country is allowed to charge tolls or fees on an international waterway. That's existing international law. That's the way it is.
Rubio reminding of that prior precedent.
Wait, international law? I thought international law doesn't count. Wait, you said yesterday international law is fake. Now we have international law? You said it was fake yesterday! You were threatening the ICC! What do you mean, international law? You said it didn't matter yesterday! Yesterday!
Just a few weeks ago there. Now, all of this is sending global oil prices surging early today to a one-month high. Iran.
I think, like, the thing about fascism is it'll drive you crazy unless you just understand what it is, right? Which is arbitrariness, which is unfairness, which is domination. Once you understand that, you're not confused. They just say bullshit to waste your time. What they believe is they get to steal whatever they can take. Like, that's it. And the question is, what are you going to do about it? And the thing about fascism is they never just like there's always a way that a major power could shift things in their favor, right? There's always a kind of a game. There's an initial fascist bump from just everybody else wanting to avoid conflict, where the fascist, it's like having a relationship with a narcissist, right? Like everybody's willing, like wants to repair relationships, right? Everybody's willing to try to like repair the relationship up until a certain point. And when it's like, and then you're like, oh, this person doesn't care about me at all. And then you're just done and you sever the, so it goes from like, initially the narcissist maybe seems like they're gaining, but then in the long term, everybody goes like, that person's a fucking narcissist. You don't want anything to do with them. And everything kind of falls off for them. And if the narcissist isn't very bright, they confuse the, like, you know, they think it's bad luck or whatever. The fascist is the same way. Oftentimes narcissists are attracted to fascism, you know, they're attracted to the feeling of domination and power and control of this type of politics. But then the problem is eventually normies will go, okay, this person's a problem, and they'll stand up to you. And the United States of America has already had its face slapped by Iran. They forced Iran to flex their muscles. They forced Iran to fight the US. Before, they had actually, like, the person who had Iran the most contained was Obama. Ironically, by being so-called pussy diplomacy guy Obama, he had Iran the most contained because it was seeming like the United States might be willing to give concessions. The rest of the world, out of the interest of stability, out of the interest of like commercial enterprise and profit, they helped contain Iran with us. So in fact, Obama was the best imperialist of them all because he actually got China and Russia and Europe and like non-aligned countries like India to help us contain Iran because we were giving them shit, because it seemed like we were giving them concessions. So they helped, like the rest of the world helped the United States maintain its own hegemony because we were seen as reasonable diplomats. But when Donald Trump came into power and he ripped those things the fuck up, he ripped the Iran nuclear deal. He embarrassed China. He embarrassed Russia. He embarrassed Europe. He embarrassed Brazil. He embarrassed Japan. He embarrassed South Korea. He embarrassed India. Like, that's what people don't understand, is that all those countries were going along with what we wanted to do in Iran. All of them were helping us contain Iran because it seemed like we were also at the same time giving Iran some ability to come out of being, you know, isolated. And we were normalizing them, and we were giving people the opportunity to profit from trading with Iran, right? So a lot of people were like, okay, we'll go along with American hegemony under this framework of peace. But when Donald Trump threw that out, now everybody's out. We can't even get Europe in. Our fucking lapdogs, our pathetic worm European puppet states are not even in. Even they're kind of like hanging back. That's how much of an L Donald Trump is. And he's pissing off South Korea Do you know how hard it is to get Americans to piss off South Korea? They had a dictatorship for us for decades. Like, do you understand how badly you have to be at managing the world to piss off South Korea, to piss off Europe? Like, they'll go along with anything. Poland helped us invade Iraq, for fuck's sake. So that's the problem that we have, is that we are now living in this world where the United States is unreliable, it's violent, and this is the most damning thing for a fascist. We're actually seeing the limits of American power, right? Because Americans don't want to die in Iran, all right? Americans don't want to die in Iran. So the only weapons we could use to attack Iran are extremely expensive, super advanced, well, you know, what we call exquisite weapons that cost millions of dollars a shot, which are intended for what? These exquisite weapons are intended for battlefield advantage against a near-peer adversary, right? Like, these weapons are not supposed to be the only weapons we're firing. These are supposed to be weapons that we use against, like, China's top weapons, so that in a certain battle, you know, in the Taiwan Strait, we might be able to swing the battle. That's what these weapons are for. Instead, we're using them to avoid casualties because Americans are so out of this war and they're so unpersuaded about its necessity that we can't carry any casualties, or the American people are going to rise the fuck up. So we're using these multi-billion-dollar, $100 billion of extremely expensive cutting-edge weapons to avoid casualties. And so Iran understands, as long as they don't go down, as long as they keep punching back, it's a win. And like, I want you to understand something, chat. Iran's military budget is $9 billion a year. We have already spent over $100 billion on the Iran war. We have already spent 11 times what Iran spends annually on this war. You understand the attrition rate is absolutely out of control and insane. Now, yeah, we've done damage to their country. We've damaged their infrastructure and whatnot, and we've done billions of dollars of damage to Iran. There's no doubt that it's not good for Iran to get bombed. But the United States of America is losing in literally every way we can lose. They made they hit an F-35. They shot drones at an aircraft carrier. We had to have America's Navy had to fend off attacks on our aircraft carrier. There hasn't been an adversary that's been able to do that for a long time. And if we keep this up, eventually they're gonna get hit. Eventually, one of these ships are gonna get hit, and we'll have another laundry fire.
Meanwhile, is hitting back with attacks targeting U.S. military sites in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan, as well as 2 UAE tankers.
We're also giving China valuable intel on how to target us. China would beat our ass in a war. There's anybody who thinks that the United States would be able to fight a war in China or with China is stupid. China is about 1,000 times more powerful than Iran. So not only would they make whatever Iran is doing with drone swarms look like a fucking patty cake, they also have hypersonic missiles. They also have 5th generation fighters. They also have a larger military by personnel count. They would beat our ass. They have the ability to, they have space resources. Like, they have satellite. They have their own GPS. They have, it's not a comparison, okay? They would beat our ass in the drone war. They have all the same exquisite weapons we have. And the other thing is they'd be fighting a defensive war, which would mean what? Their people would be 100% behind it, while our people are screaming about how much they're against it. It's like, imagine a 5'7" guy kicking the front door down of an NFL middle linebacker's home and getting into a fist fight with him. I don't care how many stripes are on his Taekwondo belt. The 5'7" guy is getting beaten into a fucking pulp. U.S. logistics network would buckle if there was a war with China. We literally cannot fight a war with China, which is why all this conversation about war with China is just a grift to steal money. You understand that, right? It is like, honestly, Chinese manufacturers and their American allies stealing money from you, go into their private pocket, because it's not actually making us stronger militarily in any significant way. It's just stealing from the federal coffers. Our military should be $300 billion. We should cut down the number of nukes we have to 150. We should basically cut down until we have a Pacific fleet and an Atlantic fleet. So maybe the Navy should be about 20% of what it is now. There is absolutely no reason, and that would keep us militarily secure. And all of our military industrial complex companies should be nationalized.
In the Strait of Hormuz, killing one crew member. The UAE has threatened to retaliate, again raising the possibility of a return to a wider war. And of course, President Trump was asked yesterday if this is just simply the new status quo. That's what he said.
Mr. President, you noted the United States is bombing.
So another forever war? Another fucking forever war? Like, oh my God, I'm yelling instead of watching shit because I'm so pissed.
You've been bombing Iran for months now. Is this just the new normal for the American people?
Well, you know, we're in Vietnam for 19 years. We're here for 4 months. So I think we've done a lot. We've knocked out their Navy in a period of 1 month.
Guys, we sunk a bunch of patrol boats. Like, that's the thing. This is exactly like Vietnam, and Donald Trump is old enough to have dodged the draft, which they did the same shit in Vietnam. They'd be like, body count. We killed 100 more VC, and it's like they killed 100 more Vietnamese civilians. Body count, body count, body count. And then it was like, but then anytime the troops walked around outside, they fell into a hole of punji sticks. The sinking of their Navy doesn't matter if we cannot use the strait. Sinking a bunch of patrol boats and, you know, and cutter and revenue cutters isn't that impressive. And by the way, we sunk the Iranian flagship. Listen to this. They were doing a diplomatic visit to India for what's called the fleet lineup, which is like where a bunch of, you know, militaries get together and they do like a diplomatic event where they kind of show, you know, they show each other the ships, they meet each other, and it's like a peaceful diplomatic mission. The United States sank the Iranian flagship when it was disarmed, sailing from India's fleet lineup. And then we let the sailors drown, which is something we didn't do in World War II to Nazi ships. Like, the United States of America is a war criminal country now under Trump. People aren't nearly as pissed off at home as they were in Vietnam because we haven't suffered any consequences yet, man. What Donald Trump has done with the Iran war is insulate America. And by the way, Americans are actually pissed off. Americans oppose the Iran war at a higher rate than they do the Vietnam War. It's just the intensity isn't there yet. Back during the Vietnam War, there was more people supported the Vietnam War because boomers were very conservative. This is something that I talk about a lot, but I just want to remind you, boomers have always been conservative. As millennials have always been left-wing, boomers have always been right-wing. The idea that people go to the right when they get older is not true, actually. There is a generational profile. Just like the GIs were left-wing. The GI generation was left-wing. Millennials are left-wing. And boomers were right-wing. Like, this is actually just, you know, this is just a fact. So as boomers die, this country is going to go to the left. Unless, like, Alpha and, you know, Gen Z are super right-wing, which the evidence is they're not. It doesn't look like Gen Z is as left-wing as millennials, but they're not so right-wing that they're going to offset the boomers dying. So it seems like millennials are the most left-wing generation since the GI generation. And so what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I am, you know, this is something that I think people don't understand. Boomers were in favor of the Vietnam War. Here is a fraction of the population who supported continued U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War by age group. So in the 60s, the people that were against the war were the GI generation, the men who fought in World War II. The generation that was in favor of the Vietnam War were boomers. And you can see the chart. Blue is boomers, green is the GIs, and orange is silent gen and very young GI gen. So over 75% of boomers supported the Vietnam War at the very beginning. And then by 68, only 35%, like, you know, if you look at 68, like the Tet Offensive, at the end of the Tet Offensive, it was only 30% of the GI generation supported the Vietnam War, but 53 or 54% of boomers supported it. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand. Like, this is because the boomers gave propaganda to us that they were the, like, hippies and they were against the war, when in reality, the average person who was against the Vietnam War in the 60s was a middle-aged veteran of World War II. Again, that is something that blows up everyone's mind, but it's actual facts. And boomers remained conservative. They celebrated, oh, here it is. And they remained conservative. Making mark on politics, baby boomers appear to rally around Reagan. So boomers supported the Vietnam War, and then they did the Reagan Revolution. This is the truth about, they've always been right-wing. And by the way, in '84, boomers were younger than me. that I am right now. At the age of 37, he is a member of the generation born in the 12 years after World War II. When the baby boom generation came of age and settled down, the analysts predicted it would have a profound effect on American political life. This year, it appears that many in this generation plan, like Mr. Merrick, to vote for Ronald Reagan. According to the last 4 New York Times CBS News polls, 54% of voters aged 27 to 38 favor Mr. Reagan, while 37% back Walter Mondale. The Reagan Revolution was due to boomers who are our age now and younger loving the right wing. They've always been right wing. This is what you need to understand. Boomers have always been right wing. Empty nesters own 28% of large homes in the U.S. Millennials with children own 16%. Like, the only reason our country is currently a question of whether or not we would have, like, if the boomers did not vote, America would have democratic socialism. The only reason there's any question about fascism and climate change and all this shit is because of the generational gap. And this is just a fact. Now, a lot of people will push back on this and they'll be like, no, it's class, not generation. And I agree with you that there's a class war. But the millennials recognize that, boomers don't. Boomers have false consciousness, millennials don't. Why? Because we all grew up going through the same kind of environment. We grew up when the internet supplanted mainstream media. We grew up during the recession instead of the boom post-World War II. We don't have faith in the system because the system failed us, but it served the boomers. So they have faith in it because it worked for them. It's very straightforward and materialist analysis. Economic self-interest. The polls indicate that Mr. Reagan's appeal is primarily economic in nature. In one recent New York Times survey, 2/3 of those 27 to 38 years old said the economy was the most important issue influencing their vote, proportion well above other age groups. This trend is illustrated by Mr. Merrick, who sells franchises for a chain of automobile repair shops and owns a horse. In recent months, he married, bought a house, and decided to vote for the first time. I don't want a tax increase, he said over lunch at Charlie's Place, a restaurant that caters to young professionals and business people in this Philadelphia suburb. There probably will be one anyway, but we have a better chance of avoiding one with Reagan than with Mondale. If the published figures are right, Mondale's tax proposal would cost me $300 a month. I could get another horse for that, he said. A fellow worker, Bill Polko, 35 years old, head of marketing division, agreed. Head of marketing division. Now, if you go in that same company, Bill is still the head of marketing division and he's 70. I'm very comfortable at this point in my life, and I can see upward mobility. In my mind, Reagan's a winner. I want to look at, like, I'll see if there's like older voters. But like, if you want, like, this, I'm only saying this. I'm going down this because the boomers, the warmongering boomers like Donald Trump, dodged the fucking draft. And now he's trying to put us into a war. But what they recognize is the moment that they actually start to, like, make us suffer consequences. Oh no. Somebody's putting bot followers on our account. God damn it. Why is Twitch so bad at detecting this shit? How the fuck is Twitch so bad at detecting this? Really? You got a big raid earlier? I did? What's the big raid I got? Oh, Kill a Dev. What the fuck? I'm sorry. I missed it. But I don't know who that is. Who is this? Who's Kill a Dev? Somebody explain. Who are they? Hello, Kill a Dev. I missed it. Sorry. But must be based. I mean, I'll figure it out. Hold on. It may be. I mean, it's very suspicious. I'm not going to lie. You get a raid from someone. Okay, yeah, that's definitely very bot suspicious because it's like, join my Discord server for giveaways. They have no VODs. So I'm going to go ahead and say that that's a botting company. Cool. Lisa gave me a real raid. Majority Report gave me a real raid. God, I would definitely not click any of their links, chat. All right, anyway, what was I saying? Okay, getting back to politics. Oil is flowing like never before thanks to the awesome power of the United States military. A special salute to the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, and Commander of the United States Central Command, Admiral Brad Cooper. Because of them and all the members of the most powerful military any in the world by far, the Strait of Hormuz is open to all ship traffic except for Iran. And that is because of their lying, violent, malicious leadership, which is taking them down the path of total destruction. You will therefore have a full blockade, but only on ships coming to and from Iranian ports or carrying anything that have to do with Iranian cargo. Based on highly productive conversation with Middle East leadership, I have decided to replace the 20% United States reimbursement fee with trade and investment deals that the various Gulf states will be making in the United States. These investments will be massive, but at the same time, extraordinarily good for them in their future. As everyone is aware, we have the largest dollar investment into the United States of any country in history. But these new investments will make that number even larger, and we will see factories, plants, and equipment poured to the United States at historic levels, which will create additional millions of high-paying American jobs. America is winning again, winning like never before. The days of Iran killing hundreds of thousands of people, including 52,000 protesters, totally made up, are over. And more importantly, Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So, the United States of America, this is so fucking annoying, man. All right, let's watch the video while I message my partner manager.
Knocked out their Air Force. Their Air Force is non-existent. We knocked out most of their missiles, most of their drones. We knocked out their drone manufacturing capability, about 92%. Their missile capability for manufacturing, we knocked out 89%. And they have a little capability, but they don't have any capability for us. This is almost a military skirmish. Now, with all of that being said, you have to get people that want to make something. We had a deal with them 2 days ago, and then they said, oh, we can't make that deal. We have to negotiate it further. And this is what they've done for 47 years. The difference is nobody negotiated like I do. And this should have been done by Bush and Obama and Biden and people before them.
So while we await some new clarity on if this is just the status quo, the Hill did get some clarity, because we're now learning that President Trump formally notified Congress on Friday that the U.S. resumed military action against Iran last week. This is in a letter sent to Congress where the president wrote that he directed the military to strike Iran after the country attacked neutral commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, despite that standing memorandum of understanding between the two countries. That notification is in accordance with the War Powers Act, which requires the president to tell lawmakers of any military attacks within 48 hours. But it also puts Congress on the clock, because they now have 60 days to decide whether to authorize the military action or require it to end. In that same letter, Trump wrote that U.S. ground forces are not involved in the strikes and that any attacks are, quote, planned and executed in a manner designed to minimize civilian casualties. The president went on to write that U.S. actions are focused on, quote, advancing U.S. national interests, securing safe passage of commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, and defending our regional allies and partners. Here on set with me, White House reporter for Reuters.
So in other words, what Donald Trump is planning on doing is doing like 60 days of war and then pull it back, do some sort of MOU again, say the war ended, and then do it again, except the Iranians won't agree to that. Like, this is so obviously a criminal war. Thank God the midterms are coming, chat. It's going to be such a fucking landslide. It's crazy. We're going to win everything.
Oh, Erickson, a lot for us to get into here, because they're notifying the Hill, which I think is notable.
And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw, but I published an article yesterday about why we should endorse AOC. It's something that I've been saying. If you've been watching my stream since 2019, you know that I said AOC is the person who will run as a Democratic Socialist. It's going to be her. Everybody is like, I predicted this how many years ago? Jules, how many clips do you have of me predicting this so many years ago? And it's coming true, as I said it would. Just like Lindsey Graham was instantly replaced, like I said he would be yesterday. The reason why we need to run is state power is important. And the most important position in America is President of the United States. They have more ability to act unilaterally than any other office. Who's the vice president? Ro? Fuck Ro Khanna. Hell no. I want somebody who scares them even more than AOC. Like Sean Fain. Have a white man. Have a white man who's just as left wing. I don't want them picking somebody who they would profit from, I don't want them to profit from killing her, Have somebody there who's like even scarier. That's what FDR did. Why fuck Ro Khanna? Ro, don't run for president. Don't force me to do this. Don't force me to be anti-Ro Khanna. I don't want to do it. But if I have to, I will. If you were watching Hassan's stream yesterday.
Yeah. So I want to get a little bit of clarity here, because you brought up the idea of being comfortable with sanctions, especially sanctions on any.
In good faith, could you explain why Z Squirrel account is wrong about saying AOC is only conditioning certain aid to Israel and reiterates J Street's position? Because Squirrel is assuming that AOC is not going to be president of the United States. If she's president of the United States, she could declare that Israel's government is not in conformist to Leahy law, and therefore it'll be illegal to give weapons to Israel. The Squirrel is assuming that AOC is going to say that the Israeli military is conforming with Leahy and all these other things, when in fact, if she's in power, she can make all the determinations which make Israeli funding illegal. And by the way, like, these people are just pessimists. They want to kill themselves. Like, I'm sorry. I want to tell you something brutally honest about some people's politics. They're just depressed and they want to kill themselves. And instead of doing that, they talk about politics instead. And so everything, when you say, oh, this good thing's happening, they immediately divert it to some sort of like way that it might actually could possibly be bad. And they don't believe things can get better. They think everything's a scam and a sellout and blah, 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 blah. It's just nonsense. And whenever we do something good, they try to downplay it. But the thing that we did, they said we couldn't do, right? So when we do the thing we said we were going to do and it comes true, then they say, oh, well, I wasn't talking about that. So like, that is the reality. And Mike, you're making friends. I'm just sorry, but like, these people aren't in DSA and they're not American. What do you want me to do? Like, they don't understand our system. They have nihilism, they have pessimism, and it's embarrassing. Like, I've talked to them and been like, AOC is gonna win. I'm like, AOC will never win, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, but she could win. Like, no, they want to let her win. So they're now committed to like making sure she doesn't win. For a lot of people, their ego is more important than anything. Like, you really need to understand this, that for a lot of people, they're very fucking weird and their ego is more important to them than the world getting to become a better place, even marginally. And so when a lot of people say AOC can't win, they then commit themselves to making that come true. They create a self-fulfilling prophecy where if AOC is able to do some of these things, they're wrong. They're publicly wrong. So in order to avoid the shame of being publicly wrong and just going like, you know what? I underestimated the opportunity here. That's good, actually. They try to make it happen. They try to lose. Mamdani won the primary. Big deal. They'll rat fuck him like India Walton. He won. Big deal. They won't let him get anything done. He's getting things done. Big deal. It's not enough. These people are poison. Exactly. Exactly. Now, there are things that I want Zoran Mamdani to do that he hasn't done, but he's very clearly committed to the socialist movement. He's very clearly working within constraints, and he's very clearly pushing the ball forward every way he can. He's not a sellout. He's not a bad guy. He's actually making the socialist movement grow, which you could see objectively in the membership of DSA skyrocketing, the way that people are talking about socialism who are normal. Like, everything they said is wrong. They're wrong. They're fundamentally wrong. And if AOC were president of the United States, she could absolutely cut off weapons to Israel from unilateral action. Now, if she doesn't take that unilateral action, we'll be mad at her. But to pretend like she can't do that, and she's not talking about doing that, is only there to downplay the energy behind her. For what purpose? Nihilism, depression. They don't have a goal. They don't have a plan. They don't have a method. I'm telling you right off the bat that if AOC wins, it's not going to bring in worldwide socialism, but it will give us all sorts of other opportunities to move the ball to the left. That's what I'm telling you we're going to do. Like, I'm not telling you like, oh my God, it's going to be unicorns and we're not going to have any fights. I want the fights. I want the fights. I want them to backstab us. I want them to betray us. I'm talking about the established Democrats of the capitalist class. I want them to have to do it openly instead of doing it secretly like they're doing now. The difference is, like, right now, AIPAC can pour millions of dollars into a fucking nameless PAC to say, Haley Stevens is actually more progressive than Abdul El-Sayed, who's a misogynist, right? So regular people aren't really sure what's going on. But if Abdul El-Sayed wins the presidency, if AOC wins the presidency, it has power, then they have to openly fight. And people can say, hey, why is Israel doing that to President AOC? All the shit gets exposed. They're only powerful when they can do it behind the scenes and underneath it secretly. The more we win, the more they have to openly oppose us. Like, this is the thing that's pissing me the fuck off, is it's like, you guys are, Donald Trump is literally trying to investigate Sean Fain. They're putting protesters of ICE in prison for life. Like, what are you guys doing? You're gonna get arrested. I mean, I think they're not arresting you because they realize that you're making the movement weak. Like, you're helping the movement become weakened and less capable of seizing power. So they like that. And obviously, listen, America is a global empire. Having a socialist in charge of the empire is going to cause contradictions. It's going to cause difficulties. She's going to be constrained in the ability of the action she could do. But let me tell you, There's a big difference between what Donald Trump has done and even what someone like Obama has done. And if you have somebody like AOC who's even better than Obama, the difference between Donald Trump kidnapping Venezuela's president and AOC lifting sanctions on Cuba, do you understand the humongous difference, the gulf of possibility for millions of people around the world, even if that's all she did? It's like fucking nuts. Aren't you concerned that making the fight visible won't create enough solidarity? ICE will be out there murdering people every week. ICE is under the control of the right-wing state, and they are targeting our forces that are organizing against them. If we have somebody who is allied with us in power, she can order them to stand down. She can defund their organization. She can do all sorts of, there's full abolishment. There's a whole range of possibilities that could be implemented unilaterally by the president. Like the difference between have somebody who is allied with us in power versus somebody who's diametrically opposed and wants us in jail or killed is night and fucking day. Do you think AOC is currently meeting the moment and leading an oppositional force to Trump? It's very clear that AOC is one of the primary vectors of resistance to Trump. Bernie Sanders and AOC leading the anti-oligarchy tour. The way that she intervened in the New York City mayor's race to endorse Zohran Mamdani, the way she intervened in state legislative races in New York, the fact she intervened in a number of important campaigns throughout the country, has including Abdul El Sayed in Michigan. I don't know if you remember, guys, she endorsed Abdul El Sayed, which is one of the most important vectors of the fight between the left and the right in the American politics today. I wish she could do more. And here's what she said a couple weeks ago about ICE.
Here's one. Any reaction to the ICE killings in Maine and Texas?
I'm still taking a look at all of the details, but once again, this is not. I said this a couple of weeks ago that I would not be surprised if when ICE funding started up again, that we would start to see more civilian deaths at the hands of ICE, and that's exactly what has happened. When you open the trenches with all of this money that Republicans have now funneled to ICE without any oversight or anything, you're going to see abuses of power, and that's exactly what's happening. You notice that, you know, we didn't see things like this happening with the same degree of regularity when we froze the ICE fund. And now that they've been opened up again, we're seeing multiple incidents now. So,
right. Thank you, Congresswoman. Here's one.
And like the other thing is, like the thing that frustrates me the most is all of our downstream successes, having people like Claire Valdez in power, having people like Daria Lisa, they're a direct lineage from her. It's a recognition that she is not the most left-wing person in a DSA, but she empowers the most left-wing person in DSA by empowering DSA. That's simply what I am saying. Like if DSA has us in it and AOC is empowering DSA, she's empowering me by proxy. That's the point. AOC didn't endorse Claire, but she endorsed Zohran, who endorsed Claire. AOC intervened to make help Zohran win. Thereby, and then they split their tasks. She would endorse the state candidates, he would endorse the federal, and so they would have an overlapping magisteria, non-overlapping magisteria, whether the composite, you have a big name DSA rep or DSA politician endorsing every single member of the slate. So everybody had a big face that everybody knows they could put on their lit. That's the plan. You know, like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I wish they would do more. I think she should do more. But I don't think AOC is the type of person that responds to bad faith criticism. Like, I have been closely watching AOC since 2018. She is somebody who's motivated by carrots, not sticks. I've never seen AOC motivated by a stick. If anything, it makes her turtle up. She's not that type of person. She's the type of person that gets brought in when she feels like there's hope or there's some sort of way that she can constructively engage. There's a reason why AOC works with New York City DSA and not national DSA. And by the way, she gives concessions to New York City DSA. It's not like they're following her around like a puppy dog.
Any reaction to the ICE killings in Maine and Texas?
I'm still taking a look at all of the details, but once again, this is not. I said this a couple of weeks ago that. And
like, oh, I'm sorry for replaying this video. Drop site news. Immigration rule demands pro-Palestine views mean nothing he says can be believed. Yakub Vijandre, a 38-year-old Filipino American photojournalist and DACA recipient, has been held at ICE detention for 9 months over pro-Palestine social media posts and posts opposing U.S. torture of prisoners, according to a member of his legal team, attorney Eric Lee. Dejoindre came to the U.S. in 2001 at age 14 and has no criminal record. He was arrested outside his Texas home in October 2025, a day after he filmed a city council meeting on ICE detention of a local Palestinian community leader. In denying him relief in March 2026, an immigration judge ruled that his politics rendered his testimony unreliable, writing that the respondent's worldview is informed by extremist ideology to such an extent that he no longer has the ability to provide reliable or credible factual statements and lacks a meaningful grasp of truth about terrorism and terrorists. This is why we've got to get AOC in power, because he would not be in prison. This man is in prison because Donald Trump is in power. If AOC was in power, he would be a citizen of this country. Like that, it's that straightforward.
In that it puts us back on that 60-day clock. But the administration and, frankly, Republican senators on the Hill have always drawn this distinction between, well, if it's just airstrikes, we're going to let the White House kind of have a bunch of leeway here. But if it escalates to more than that, then we want to be involved. What is the White House view on where things go next from that perspective?
Yeah, it's kind of this interesting question right now, because in the last few weeks, one person has
I'm sorry. I can't watch the smug liberals. We're actually going to Fox News because there's more factual reporting.
President Trump ordering a new set of strikes on Iranian...
And like MSNBC. MSNBC mostly spends it with these no-name liberal commentators who are pushed by the DNC with no motion and also no subject matter expertise. Can I get some factual reporting?
Military targets for a third consecutive night yesterday.
So this, as another blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, is scheduled to begin this afternoon.
Mike Tobin is live in Tel Aviv with the...
This guy is great, so don't hate on him too much, but I think this take is good to counteract, because this kind of left bashing on AOC is very harmful. I like this guy a lot. He agrees with me on... It's funny because we supported like Daria Lisa's campaign together and Chris Rabb's campaign together. AOC endorsed Chris Rabb. So like, I'm sorry, man, but like you know what it is, chat? And this is coming from me, so you know it's true. Some people want AOC to have the same personality as them, not the same politics. They don't like the fact that AOC is not someone who's snarling and raging. They want her to have that same personality. I am a snarler and a rager, but I also understand having a different type of personality is good. Everyone doesn't have to have the same personality as me. That's why a lot of these guys like Bernie Sanders more than AOC, because Bernie has a little bit of an angrier way of presenting himself, even though his politics are worse than AOC's in every way. I'll say that again. Bernie Sanders' politics are worse than AOC's in every way. Every way. There is not one issue that Bernie is better than AOC on. Not one. And in fact, she's better as an organizer because she's working through DSA, whereas Bernie Sanders at most tolerated us. They want AOC to be angry. That's what they want. They want her to visibly be angry and mad sounding, which I get. Is your hate pure is a core socialist belief. Absolutely it is. But the fact that she doesn't present that way is what they're mad about. So let's go ahead and listen to the arguments.
But I think we, as like the left and progressives in the United States, need to really seriously examine the actual pros and cons of AOC running for president. I say that because
I gotta pause this because it's like I think if you're on I think if you're left of Neera Tanden, you should support AOC running for president. And if you don't agree with me, there's something wrong with you. And the thing that's wrong with you is your inability to judge what people's positions actually are. And you know, I don't mean that to be anti-comradely. I just mean that as I don't think you're grounded firmly in policies. And I don't think you understand that politicians are there to enact policy. Ro Khanna is significantly to the right of AOC. I'm going to show you a Ro Khanna clip when he was on Hassan's show yesterday.
Yeah. So I want to get a little bit of clarity here because you brought up the idea of being comfortable with sanctions, especially sanctions on any institution, financial or otherwise, that's touching the West Bank. But are you comfortable with like targeted sanctions of that sort? I want to get like full clarity on it. And also, are you comfortable with advancing a demand for an arms embargo?
Link it to me, Bob.
Or is that too pie in the sky for you?
Well, I would say I'm comfortable with sanctions on government officials and sanctions on anyone, any of the financial institutions, and certainly sanctions which are involved in the occupation in the West Bank. And I would look at the construction of the finance the government officials that are involved there. And of course, if there are people to be held criminally accountable.
Oh, that reminds me. Chat, if you are in LA, if you're in LA, how many LA people do we have in the chat? How many LA people do we have in the chat? How many of you would be willing to, how many of you have also joined DSA? If you haven't joined DSA, hold off for like a day or two. I'll get back to you tomorrow. But here is a petition. This person told me to share it. Let me look at it. It's called the Run AOC Run petition. Everybody needs to fucking get serious right now. Everybody needs to get fucking serious and sign this shit. If you're in LA, on the 18th, they're going to do a local convention. We need you guys there. Obviously, she's gonna win. It's a foregone conclusion. But the reality is that people don't seem to understand the level of importance for this. So let's finish this stupid fucking Ro Khanna thing. I swear to God, I've been trying to finish it. I keep getting distracted. I'm sorry.
And certainly sanctions which are involved in the occupation in the West Bank. And I would look at the construction, the finance, the government officials that are involved there. And of course, if there are people to be held criminally accountable beyond or sanctioned based on what happened in Gaza, that needs to happen once that goes through the ICJ and ICC. On the way I frame it, similar to Sanders and others, is no military sales under our Leahy law. And the arms embargo and candor would go further. It would that would mean, I suppose, as you would define it, that you would stop Israel even from getting defensive weapons, even not from us, but if they just want to get Iron Dome or things, that to me is probably too far. I mean, I'm all for defending and saving human life. So I have framed it the way Sanders or others have: no military sales in terms of things that could kill civilians, which is where
but you would not be in favor of a similar ease of access to defensive weapons for the Palestinians, right? As far as like if Palestinians were to get arms
I think a
from
Palestinian state, no, I mean, I think if a Palestinian state wanted to have Iron Dome, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay.
Why would that be a problem?
All right.
Because there is no Palestinian state, and it's a hypothetical, because it's been denied by Israel. So you're actually giving weapons to Israel, and you're hypothetically giving weapons to Israel. That's not a real question. Until there's a Palestinian military, which is independent of Israeli oversight, like, it's a silly answer. For your information, it's the same position on arms as AOC. No, it's not. AOC has said she wants to prevent offensive and defensive weapons being sold. Now, she has not said, oh, I'm 100% against a weapons embargo and I'll never support it. She has committed to not selling offensive or defensive weapons or giving she is committed to not giving offensive or defensive aid to Israel.
Representative Khanna, I want to say, like, I think objectively, a lot of people who have been deeply concerned about the apartheid state of Israel, the genocide in Gaza, find it refreshing to hear a member of Congress speak in this way, and the fact that you also have used this opportunity to try to highlight specific cases of Palestinians. I want to ask you, though, what you think the consequences for Israel should be, not just of these actions, but also for the mass murder of a documented roughly 80,000 people. It's probably much higher than that in Gaza, a significant portion of whom are children. I've heard you talk about sanctioning individuals. I've heard the framing that you and Bernie Sanders offer about offensive weapons or weapons that kill civilians, but I've also heard your defense of Iron Dome. And I want to push you on this because I think a lot of the critique of you from pro-Palestine people and from Palestinians is that the position you're advocating basically amounts to, we need to make sure that the sniper is protected so that he can continue sniping.
Well, if we look, I appreciate the question, and I will answer it specifically. But if you look at all the things I've called for, I've said zero aid to Israel and supporting the Massey Amendment that does that. That's going to be a big vote coming up this week. I've said no military sales to Israel that are used to kill civilians. I've said no military integration and led the fight to repeal Section 224 and 219, which is Netanyahu's end run, where they would just co-produce the military. I've said we should call it apartheid and recognize the genocide. So these are on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like going from 1 to 7 or 8. And the debate is, okay, 9 or 10, do I, an arms embargo completely, which I have not supported, would say Israel can't even get or produce from anyone defensive, the Iron Dome. And I guess my view is, anyone should be able to protect civilian life, but that's not America supporting it. I do think, though, that there is something that the next administration could do within the first 100 days. Instead of just saying, okay, we're going to talk abstractly about this long peace process, demand the arrest of Yonah Levy and extremist settlers within 100 days. Demand the destruction of every outpost within 100 days. Demand the destruction of illegal settlements within 100 days. Demand a justice for Palestinians and Palestinian people so that they stop getting terrorized within 100 days. That doesn't have to be some dialogue. That needs to be a directive from the American administration saying Israel must do this. And we need to be taking steps as we get towards a broader peace in that direction. I think that's one of the things that came out of this trip, the immediacy of the suffering of Palestinians.
I still don't think this is answering the question. I mean, tell me where I'm wrong here. What you're advocating for, we are talking about not just Netanyahu. Sanders always says Netanyahu and his extremist right-wing government. But if you look at public opinion polling, there is widespread support for open genocidal policies. In fact, Netanyahu is often criticized by his political opponents for not having finished the job in Gaza or in Lebanon or elsewhere. And I want to know why it is that you are stopping on this, because so much of what you're saying, it's one of the clearest recognitions of the issue that you could hear from an American politician. And yet you still are saying, but the sniper needs to have protection.
It's not the sniper. It's saying that we're not, just so there's no ambiguity on my position, which is also the position of Sanders or AOC or others, as I understand it. It is that we have zero military aid to Israel, that we have no military sales that are used to kill, military weapons that are used to be killing civilians. So that's the drop.
I would argue Iron Dome is used to kill. I would argue Iron Dome is used to kill civilians because it allows the Israelis to have this American backing to operate with impunity by openly saying that I support this military technology for Israel. What you're saying is that when Israel attacks other countries who have a right to fight back, that my position is that sniper, I wish he wasn't doing the sniping, but that sniper has a right to have the United States defending their sniping.
But I don't think that that's the case if we're stopping all military aid and we're stopping giving them the weapons to kill others, and we're stopping protecting them at the UN, and we're demanding the actions in terms of justice. I don't think that their policies, whether it's Netanyahu or another Israeli government.
Would you say this about apartheid South Africa? I've heard you talk about it.
Well, because I
give me another example where you say it's okay to continue any level of support for an openly genocidal society that has mass murdered 80,000 people, more than 300 media workers, has invaded Lebanon, has bombed Iran, and you're saying, oh, but we need to protect civilians. This isn't about protecting civilians. The greatest threat to their civilians is their policy. And so I don't understand why you have even one qualified shred of support for a sniper mass murderer masquerading as the only democracy in the Middle East.
Well, but I'm not saying that the United States should be supporting the funding for Iron Dome, just so we're clear. I'm saying that we shouldn't be restricting Israel from being able to get the Iron Dome or be able to develop the Iron Dome technology. Well,
I stop there. Everything else you're saying makes so much sense. Why do you stop there? It feels to me like you're trying to have it both ways on this issue. So you can say, well, I actually support, defending the Israeli civilians. You're not defending Israeli civilians with that policy. You're defending the sniper's ability to keep killing because it won't face the ultimate accountability, which is a total embargo on all support for an apartheid state.
Yeah, I don't think you have to put at risk. You would agree, there are innocent civilians in Israel, right? Including 20% being Arab Israelis. I mean, I just don't think that you have to put their lives at risk to achieve the ends of stopping the apartheid, stopping the occupation,
Israel puts their lives at
accountable.
risk by waging genocidal wars with the support of a significant portion of its population, and by enabling them by saying, well, the sniper still needs to have his cover, or well, you know, I stop at this thing. What you're saying is that the accountability then doesn't lie on American policy toward Israel. It's sort of something abstract. Well, Israeli civilians could die. Israeli civilians are dying in these attacks because of the apartheid. You know, Palestinians have a right to kill Israeli soldiers? On October 7th, when they attacked the military bases in the Gaza envelope, did the Qassam brigades and Surah al-Quds have a right to kill Israeli soldiers? Yes or no? On October 7th, did Palestinians have a right to attack Israeli military bases in the Gaza envelope? Yes or no?
I mean, I think October 7th attack was a terrorist attack, so I don't
Was
justify.
it a terrorist attack when the first targets that were hit on the morning of October 7th were multiple military bases? Did Palestinian forces have a right to attack those military?
I am not for violence again in any way. I mean, I am for making sure that we end the occupation.
Do they have a right to do it, Congressman? Do they have a right to attack Israeli soldiers?
No, I'm not going to say that Hamas had a right to attack Israeli soldiers or kill Israelis. Like I don't think that advances peace or advances Palestinian statehood.
Does Israel have a right to drop a single bomb in Gaza in response to October 7th?
I believe Israel had the right to get people who killed the civilians, but not in the way they went about it, which I've said is genocide.
But the Palestinians don't have a right to attack the very military bases that are running the killing operations on October 6th, 2023, or October 5th, 2023. It's a double standard. You're saying there are ways that Israel should be able to kill Palestinians, but there is never a condition under which Palestinians can attack armed, uniformed soldiers of a force that is still considered an occupying force under international law. I don't make it make sense to me.
I come from a tradition of King and Gandhi. My grandfather was in jail.
I'm aware of your family history. Do you think King would say, "Well, they can attack the Viet Cong, but I don't want them to kill"?
I don't think anyone.
By the way, chat, here is my earliest prediction about AOC. Watching the AOC stream, I could shake the idea that she would be our president one day. She and Ilhan Omar are so far ahead of every other politician in this country, both politically and both in policy and in outreach. It's amazing how much she's been able to stay true to herself and the movement. Denims with the reply. 2020. Was Denims even streaming at that point? I feel like this might be a pre-streaming Denims. Mike, do you have the link for that Google sheet showing history of representatives and how aligned they are? Sure. Which one do you want? Do you want all issues or just Palestine? If you go by Palestine, this is it. AOC has a B+ with an 89, and Summerlee has an A with a 90. I feel like they should be adding some pluses and minuses, personally. And then, so AOC is the 5th best person on Palestine. And if you want all issues, AOC is currently, you have to go to the House tab. AOC is currently 4th. There's the left tracker, and you could go and look and see like all the bills she's currently writing: raise the wage act, $17 minimum wage, Medicare for all, block the bombs act, college for all, ultra-millionaire tax, recognizing the Nakba, Lebanese war power resolution, you know, etc., etc., etc. You kind of just check all the policies, you know. And there's the percent correct refers to all Democrats. So what percentage of Democrats are voting what we consider the correct way on all these left-wing issues? So 79% of Democrats are co-sponsoring the Raise the Wage Act, but only 6% of Democrats are supporting recognition of the Nakba. Now, Roe is the 17th best rep. Maxwell Frost is considered better than him. Pramila Jayapal is considered better than him, although she doesn't sponsor the Nakba bill, which is really bad. Because, you know, maybe numbers can be misleading. The reason why Ro Khanna finishes so low is he's very pro crypto, and he only votes with the left 80% of the time. So he sponsors our bills, but he votes against the left 1 out of 5 times, which is very bad. So, like, for example, express All right, hold on. That's not the bill that I wanted to point out. Oh, here we go. Trump-backed funding bill that increases funding for the military. It has $3.3 billion for Israel and also defunded USAID and UNRWA. Ro Khanna inexplicably voted yes back in January. He voted present on honoring Charlie Kirk instead of no. He voted for the Genius Act and the Clarity Act, which are huge crypto bills that the majority of Democrats voted against. 63% of Democrats voted against this pro-crypto bill that he was supporting. So he's like one of the crypto bros, like he's like the progressive crypto bro. That's why I'm not a Ro Khanna supporter.
I don't know what Gandhi would say. I don't think my grandfather would say that the Palestinians should have armed resistance to Israeli occupation. I think they would argue for a much
okay.
more...
Let me watch this thing and tell you my opinion. I like him, by the way. That's what sucks about this is I like him. I just completely disagree with the way that people are approaching AOC. I don't personally like AOC. That fucking doesn't matter to me. I believe, though, that if AOC runs for president and DSA is at the core of the campaign, it will lead to socialism blooming all over the country. There's like 85 or 100 seats that are D+30. We should have a DSA rep in every single one of those seats, okay? Or at least somebody who's like Ro Khanna, okay? If you go to D+15, there's like 170. And the fact that we only have like 10 or 15 or 20 reps means we're punching up, well below our weight. And somebody like AOC will nationally, everybody will be paying attention to the presidential campaign. In every town, in every city, there will be an AOC campaign nucleus. And we can use that to build an electoral program for like cadre candidates to run for Congress and state legislature and state Senate. And we have 2 years. We actually have a year and a half max to get that ready. It's not about me liking AOC. It's that AOC is the most aligned with us. If she wants to work with our org, we can use that. There's going to be 1,000, 1,500 jobs in the AOC campaign. If she wins the presidency, she's going to have tens of thousands of federal roles to fill. We can have DSA cadre in every single governmental department. Like, I think people are they don't know what they're saying. Like, and you're keeping our socialist politics small. You're keeping it local. And I'm not against doing local shit, but we have the opportunity to skip 15, 20 years of slow grinding organizing and backfill because the people are out there. They agree with us. They're just not connected to the movement. They have sentiment, not action. And that is our role. Our job is to turn that sentiment into action.
It's my personal opinion that I don't think it's a good idea to bend. Now, there are a lot of reasons I think this, right? I think she has a tendency to really bend to the middle on a lot of issues in ways that really fuck people over.
The reason, she doesn't have, again, I'm sorry. I need you guys to not do rhetoric. I need to have arguments. This is just your vibe, man. Like, I love you, but this is just your vibe. A tendency to bend to the middle. What the fuck are you saying? On what? You mean she endorsed a Democrat over Donald Trump? She voted present on like one of 1,000 votes? What do you be specific?
Thinking particularly about the rail strike that she voted against in line with the Biden administration. I think.
Okay, the rail strike. The leadership of the union specifically said to vote in that way. And then she sat on the Biden administration to ensure that they got concessions. Now, maybe she should go against the leadership of the union and align with the rank and file or whatever. But like, what are you saying? She was in coordination with the rail union leadership. Hold on, let me.
I think on international policy in particular, she has really bad political instincts, and I think oftentimes ends up taking positions that are kind of fucking absurd.
Like what?
For instance, voting present on military aid to the Israelis, or saying that she supports Israeli defensive weapons, which I think after some significant pressure, she slowly reworked the position on. But again,
she no longer supports it. Again, you're talking about a pre-October 7th vote where she voted present. And again, these are not votes that I like. They're not votes that I like. But she has come out. She went to DSA. At the DSA forum, she promised to not vote for any funding for Israel's military, defensive or offensive. Like, that's it. She pledged not to have the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. And there's a reason why there's a reason why Claire Valdez spoke out in favor of endorsing her. Congressional candidate Daria Lisa spoke out in favor of endorsing her. The so-called left-wing DSA members, they spoke out in favor of endorsing her. So I'm sorry, but that's just incorrect. And again, I'm not saying that AOC was right to vote present back in 2001. Okay? 2021, excuse me. But let's look at that vote. I mean, I have it on the spreadsheet. Let's go look at that vote. Let's look at her bad votes, okay? She's got a 97%. There's no one that's better than her in Congress. She's the single most left-wing politician basically in America. Hold on, let me scroll. It's pretty far back. I want you to see all the green. Okay, here we go. I think I saw it. There it is. Oh, that's increased Capitol Police funding. Okay. Let's see here. Unconditional aid to Israel voted no in 2021 with Rashida Tlaib. That was everybody else voted yes in the entire caucus. So only Rashida Tlaib and AOC voted against unconditional aid to Israel. There it is. Iron Dome funding present. That's it. Ilhan Omar voted for aid to Israel. Do you understand? There isn't anybody that's so a present vote is basically a no. Only 3.6% of Democrats voted no. They are Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Chuy Garcia, who I think is dead, right? And Ayanna Pressley, who then voted for unconditional aid to Israel. Only cowards vote present. The bill passed nearly unanimously. The yays were 420 and the nays were 9. So what you want to say is, I want to throw out one of the 10 people that weren't in favor of this so that one of the 420 who voted in favor of the Iron Dome are elected. That is what you're effectively trying to do. And AOC has now since come out and improved her position from this vote. So AOC gets a better position. She was already brave and one of the 10 people that didn't support it. She gets even better from there. And you're arguing that as a reason not to support her. And therefore allow somebody like who to win? Gavin Newsom? Our enemies? And here she is. Here's what she was asked. Hold on. I want to clarify, a New York City DSA member asked in a follow-up question, if the moment presents itself in Congress, will you commit to voting no for spending on arms for Israel, including so-called defensive capabilities? Yes, AOC quickly answered. Okay, so I want you to know that if and when you vote no, a ton of us will have your back, so thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Ocasio-Cortez said. Ocasio-Cortez's new commitment to vote against funding even defensive weapons to Israel represents a small but significant shift from her previous position. And again, I don't know what to say. Like, she had a bad vote. We yelled at her. She changed her position on that vote. She's now got the best position in Congress. And the other thing is, normie Dems like her. She's a known quantity. She's raised $31 million. She's the top fundraiser in the House of Representatives. She's a member of our organization. She is an avowed DSA member, an avowed Democratic Socialist who's moving in our direction, who also has massive name recognition and popularity and fundraising capability and volunteer capability and name recognition and positive favorability from Democrats and normies. And you want to throw that away in favor of?
Time and time again, AOC has proven that, especially on Palestine and with foreign policy generally, it's a real mixed bag, right? This is the same person who went to the DNC saying the Biden administration was working.
Again, listen, if you are trying to cherry pick all of the biggest mistakes AOC has made in office since 2018 and put them back to back as a representation of who she is, you are actually doing misleading propaganda. You're not giving the context. I have no problem showing you the bad votes she made and telling you why I disagree with them. And then you're like, well, why do you trust her? And then showing you the way that she has reiterated more commitments in my direction. Okay. And then I also talked to you about the alternative, right? And to go and say like, oh, and then to basically present her as a mixed bag on foreign policy is like, I don't know what else to say other than batshit compared to every other politician in America. Because if it's not AOC, it'll be a demon from hell who wants to do the genocide actively. Do you think that's going to advance? They'll fucking prescribe our organization. They want to put us in prison. That's what the centrists did in the UK. They made Palestine Action illegal. If you said, I support Palestine Action, the center-left Labour Party put you in prison in the UK. You're saying AOC voted bad on a bill she pledges not to support in the future. Therefore, we should go to prison. What's going on? I'm sorry. Again, I like this guy. I like James. I know he's probably not going to like the way that I reacted to this, but it's very frustrating, man. You have an obligation to show us the path of what you're trying to achieve and what's the timeline.
Tirelessly for a ceasefire. And now this is not to say that she is the worst politician on Palestine, because she obviously isn't, or that she has universally bad politics.
Okay, but here's the thing. You're damning her with faint praise. That's not true. She's the best politician in America that has a reasonable chance of winning the presidency. The only people that can compare to her are the 4 people that are in DSA, who all are going to endorse her. When AOC runs for president, she's going to have Rashida Tlaib, Summer Lee, Daria Lisa, Chris Rabb, Claire Valdez, Zoran Mamdani, Bernie Sanders. They're all going to be there. Ilhan Omar, all the people you say you love are going to be there with her. I don't know what are you saying? Who is better?
Necessarily think that's the case, but there's a really critical question that we have to ask ourselves, which is when AOC wins, assuming she does.
All right, we're right into the video and it's early, but the process of AOC winning changes the world. The process of AOC winning changes the world. We get millions of volunteers running through a DSA coordinated political campaign. We raise $1 billion of grassroots money, which flows into DSA organizing programs all over the country. In all 50 states, there is a new cadre of newly engaged and organized socialist comrades. The DSA surges from 120,000 members to 400,000, 500,000, 1 million. We elect 25 to 50 to 75 brand new DSA congresspeople and state legislators across the country. Our ideas are beamed into the heads of every single American. DSA represents the American left. The entire world is bathed in these arguments. The left everywhere will surge and gain energy because everybody will see America's going to the left. Maybe we could try our left-wing groups. All the fascist right-wing allies of the United States will be in trembling fear that they're not going to be able to maintain whatever covert support they're getting from the United States. That's just the process of her winning. That's not even her winning yet. When she comes into power, she could issue executive orders day one, which fundamentally change the way that the SEC works, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the way that the National Labor Relations Board works, the EPA works. She could change the way that the Department of Justice works on things like civil rights and police investigations. She can change the way the State Department works. She could change the way the CIA works. On day one, she could order the military to retreat and withdraw from invasions and attacks on Iran. Like on day one, she can pardon and give amnesty to every illegal immigrant or every DACA immigrant. You could change the lives of millions of people overnight. That's before a single law is proposed. Day one. Millions of people's lives instantaneously get better day one before she passes anything, before she has a single fight with any Democratic legislator, before she tries to do anything. That's day fucking one. So you're skipping over one of the... And by the way, when DSA grows from AOC... When we build the energy into our organization, which we build the left flank in this country, a real institution of power that every Democrat in the entire country has to live in fear of. Every single sitting Democrat has to worry that DSA is going to cook up a challenger for them if they go against AOC or they go against the left. Every single Democrat is in trembling fear of their job. Like, that is the difference. And again, up until now, DSA has not been a serious political organization. It has been a minor player. I had hoped it would grow. But now we're at the moment that it is happening. We are at the moment that DSA is finally growing truly and honestly into a real organization led by our comrades in the New York City DSA, clustered around the victory that AOC won in 2018, which led to the Zoran win, which led to the Daria Lisa win, which led to the Claire Valdez win, which has led to the Chris Rabb win, which has led to the Milat Kuros win. All of those things trickle from each other. And if we end up with 10 or 15 members of DSA in Congress, that is the warm-up that shows that we must be even more ambitious in our electoral projects going forward, not less. And the presidency of the United States, is she going to be constrained? Absolutely. Is she going to compromise? Absolutely. Is the empire, are events going to happen that force her to do something that I don't like? Abso-fucking-lutely. but it'll be better than worrying that I'm going to get hauled into the fucking government because I'm a pro-Palestinian advocate. You know, it'll be nice to have a local representative in Congress that I could call up who's my political ally and friend. It'll be nice to not worry about us launching some invasion of Cuba or Venezuela or Brazil or Argentina or Ecuador or Honduras or El Salvador. Like, we will actually be pulling back on the empire. We'll be jerking the chain of the wild feral beast that is U.S. empire. And why do I feel this way? Because it's all possible. None of this requires a mega lift. This is just an order from the president.
What happens when the U.S. imperial apparatus continues to apply the violence that is necessary to retain U.S. hegemonic status globally?
So the problem with this is the type of like intellectual. This is what happens when the left is in the ghetto of the intellectual class, of the seminar, of the professor, right? Like, that is why the left has failed to grow in the last 50 years, because it is ghettoized and this type of rhetoric, which is, what happens if AOC bombs Africa? He's assuming his answer. He's assuming his answer. I'm assuming AOC is going to do this thing because it's necessary. But why is it necessary? Well, because we have unequal exchange. Okay, what if she doesn't bomb? What will happen?
Put it more simply, what do we do when AOC bombs Africa? What do we do when the U.S. continues dropping bombs in the Middle East? What do we do when the blockade on Cuba keeps going in some fashion?
What if none of that happens? What if you sabotaging AOC leads? What if she would have gone into office and not bombed Africa, withdrew the United States from bombing in the Middle East, and ended and normalized relations with Cuba, which is completely within her power? What if you're just wrong about that? What if we miss the opportunity and Gavin Newsom goes in and he works with the Republicans to prescribe DSA as a fascist, authoritarian organization or whatever nonsense they say? I don't think AOC is to the right of Obama on Cuba.
He tries to whittle away the intensity of the blockade itself. What do we do when all of these things happen? When the U.S. military continues its operations, when the U.S. empire continues maintaining
What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, you're just saying things. You're not actually saying anything of value. What operations right now would AOC continue that she has expressed support for? She doesn't have to. She could order them. She's the commander in chief. She could withdraw the military. You know that Donald Trump could order the military out of Europe and out of South Korea right now. That is completely within the power of the president. And there's nothing anybody could do about it.
Hegemony, because that is the interest of the empire. I'll be honest, I've been asking that question to a lot of people on the left who have supported AOC, and the best answers I've gotten are that, yeah, bad things are going to happen, but it's not as bad as Trump.
By the way, again, this is not a serious political conversation. Like, I love you, man, but this is not a serious conversation. I could come up with a hypothetical that's a little bit more better than this. I'll give you one. What happens that when 3 years into AOC's term, a terrorist attack from Iran kills 1,500 people in New York City out of revenge for America's attacks? What if the right-wing faction within Iran launches a major successful terrorist attack on New York City under AOC? What if the blowback of Trump arrives in America while AOC is president? That is a difficult question to answer. I believe she would try to do some sort of retaliation because 90% of the country would be in favor of some sort of retaliation. And that would be a difficult, painful contradiction of understanding that it is blowback, but nonetheless being forced by popular sentiment into making some sort of retaliatory strike, which reduces our ability to pursue diplomacy. That's a real possibility. That worries me. That's why I worry about blowback so much, is because somebody like AOC gets elected and then terrorist attacks happen and retaliation, and then she is seemingly forced into some sort of response. That is a more serious question than, oh, she's going to be doing imperialism in Africa.
Which I think is a really bad fucking standard that we need to wrestle with. Should AOC win the presidency, she would be going in with a Congress that is dominated by Republicans and moderate Democrats, right?
Well, it'll be mostly. So this is kind of the problem, is when you assume failure, you are going to be a guaranteed failure. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I knew we were going to win all these races, and I thought we should have run more, and I was right. if we have a small-minded, anti-electoral kind of like deterministic left that doesn't even approach the moment that exists, where the massives have completely rejected Democratic centrists, the only reason they're winning is because we're not putting up viable challengers. They're running unopposed. The vast majority of these evil Democrats are running unopposed because our movement isn't mature enough to even challenge them. And when we do challenge them, we're beating their fucking ass. So an AOC run gives us the opportunity for a national platform to grow our organization by 4 or 5 times and put the fear of God into Democrats across the country. That is the challenge that we are failing to rise to, because you're assuming failure. And again, if you assume failure, you will get it. I'm not promising you sunshines and rainbows. I'm promising you an opportunity to shift the boulder at the top of the hill, to get it rolling. And we're using AOC. I don't give a fuck about AOC. I want you guys to understand. I don't give a fuck about AOC. I don't even like AOC. It doesn't matter if I don't. I see what opportunity she will give me and you at DSA, which is a bunch of normies do like her. And we can funnel them into our party. And if the establishment fights back, then DSA will be the nucleus of a new working class socialist party that could split. If they go nuclear fighting us, then we will have a nucleus strong enough to fight back. But if we don't take advantage of this opportunity, if we pass it up, we will never get another one in your life. Never again. I want you guys to understand this. If we don't do this now, we'll never get another chance. Ever. I want you to put that in your pipe and fucking smoke it. Because technology is changing. Drone technology is changing. The oligarchy, AI, so the ability of an authoritarian suppression of dissent is increasing. Our ability to move and protest is under assault. This is it. There's no future opportunity. Most of human history, the average human being lived in subjugation and domination. Our current epoch, our moment of relative equality or hope for an even socialist future is an anomaly. You have this shot. This is it. This is your only shot.
DSA and other progressive operations have been trying to get people into Congress, but even with all of their efforts and everything we've seen so far, they are still a sizable minority that don't...
Because the organization is small. It was only 60,000 members in a country of 350 million people. Now it's 120,000 members, and it's going vertical in growth, and AOC's popularity is a key driver of that. Zohran Mamdani was 2 years ago, Zohran Mamdani was a backbench state representative. Now he's an internationally known politician of the country's largest city. 2 years ago, Milat was living in fucking, what, DC? Or like, she wasn't even in Denver yet. We're talking about 2.5 years from now, man.
Always have a unified strategy. And with that massive majority of establishment politicians, it becomes...
Again, I think that if you think like this, you should just not talk about politics. Like, honest to God, I appreciate you. I love you. I think you should talk about like mutual aid. I think you should get out there on the brake light clinics. You should get out in the community gardens, get out in the homeless outreach. You get out there, get your hands dirty. Seems like that's what you're built for. You are literally creating the conditions of our own defeat with meaningless and harmful cynicism with no anchor or purpose or plan. It is you are surrendering before the battle because you think you might not win. This is honest to God, dude. What? New York City is a failure, apparently? It's a failure for us to beat the chairman of the Hispanic caucus. It is a failure to defeat the progressive blob by 20 points. It's a failure to overturn a 15-term incumbent in Denver. It's a failure to win the bluest city and bluest district of the country with Chris Rabb. What are we saying?
Becomes really difficult to navigate in that system, meaning that AOC as an executive will inevitably have to shift to the right, make really interesting compromises that could be really devastating compromises for people around the world, and do things.
I don't know how to exist. I don't know how to exist in this online media space. I don't know how to exist in this online media space. Obviously, everything is fucking vibes, right? Like, everything is vibes, not stepping on anybody's toes, collaborating, and all that other shit. Like, I don't know how to exist in this space. I don't know how to exist in this space. This is the learned helplessness. You're a dog that was being shocked, and you gave up, and you're just laying down. Meanwhile, we're coming off some of the most outrageous, ambitious victories. Claire Valdez was a rep for 2 years, and now she's a congresswoman. Daria Lisa was at her 5th year of pursuing a sociology PhD, and now she's a congresswoman. Mila Kuros is 28 years old, and now she's a congresswoman. John Mamdani was a backbench assembly member. Now he's the mayor of America's largest city. What are we talking about? 29, sorry.
Things that would maybe not align with what we would envision as socialist leadership.
Okay, let's take what I mean. I'm sorry. The idea of AOC is going to move to the right. Move to the right from where? They're hypothetical compromises. I can't even argue against them because they're not rooted in anything real. It's all like, imagine AOC as president. AOC made you mad when she didn't tweet, right? So she'll make you mad as president and you'll feel bad. So therefore it's worth avoiding. That's the argument. The argument is AOC will do something that frustrates you as president. So it's not worth us having a socialist president.
Now, sure, there are executive powers that she might have. There are things she might be able to do.
Can you tell me the executive powers of the president of the United States? Complete pardon power. Commander-in-chief of the military. Appointer of every single leader of all executive agencies, which include the Department of Defense, the State Department, the CIA, the Department of Justice, which includes the FBI and the Secret Service. The ability to direct the EPA, the ability to direct the FEC, the ability to direct Federal Elections Commission, the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, the ability to give pardons and amnesty to every immigrant. That's not worth having, guys, because she might not do exactly what I want her to do and exactly the way I want her to do it.
Congress is functionally able to hold her hostage and overturn a lot of the things she wants to do, then there's not a lot to be done from the executive, right?
I think like one of the things about politics in general is obviously it's a personality conflict, right? Like it's not the world that I want to live in, right? Like I want to live in a world where your knowledge and your predictive capability is what matters, right? That's the world that I pretend exists, but does not exist. And most of the constraints that I now operate under is like most people don't like me because they think my vibes are bad. Like the people that don't like me hate me because of vibes or some lie that they heard about me. Okay. And so I'm running up to the limit of what I can do, just speaking the truth and being right. Right. Like there's only so far you can get. You need to win the vibes. And I see stuff like this and it really pisses me off. And I don't know what to do. The president of the United States might have a Congress that opposes them. So therefore, it's not worth having the presidency of the United States of America. I don't know what to say because you're lacking such a foundation in civics. It's such a foundation in history. It's such a foundation in electoral politics that I don't even know where to start.
A better strategy, perhaps, would be building out a massive congressional bloc that can act in an agitational purpose.
Yes, in order to do that, we have to support AOC for president because she will give us the opportunity for a national organizing. Like we will be able to build that congressional bloc off of a national political campaign. A presidential campaign is in every city, in every town, in the entire country. And that nucleus of people that support AOC are called normies. And they're not currently at DSA, which only has 120,000 members, which is 0.03% of the population. And so when AOC runs for president and she has 5 million volunteers, that'll be 20 times what AOC currently has.
Advance the interests of an executive that is allied with that bloc. But we don't have that. Meaning
we don't have it because we haven't built it, but there's another election, man. We're building it. If AOC doesn't run for president, I'm telling you what will happen. Okay, the Democrats going to win. Most likely Democrat to win that's not AOC is probably somebody like Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is a longtime Republican. His political career started in San Francisco in a Republican district. He was the most right-wing member of the San Francisco City Council. He was basically elected by the rich. His family was his dad was the attorney for the Getty oil company. His father was like the personal attorney of the Getty family. The Getty family are oil billionaires. And then the Gettys invested in Gavin Newsom so he could start a winery. So using his relationships with the Getty oil billionaires, he got started into a winery where they they provided all the seed capital, which is how he got rich. Then he ran on basically the most right-wing platform that San Francisco has ever seen for mayor. However, he supported gay rights because it's San Francisco. Then Gavin Newsom became governor of California on the promise of pursuing single payer, which he immediately broke and then vetoed. And he has been such an ineffective neoliberal failure that he squandered a $80 billion surplus and turned it into a deficit. The biggest failure in American infrastructure is the California high-speed network railway corridor that was passed in 2008 and has not been completed. So Gavin Newsom will go into power. What he will do is he will focus on containing, suppressing, and stopping the left. He is a virulent Zionist. So the genocide in Gaza and the West Bank will be completed. The Palestinian people will be turned into a diaspora, or they will be annihilated. That is what you're advocating for. I think you need to understand that we are in the end stages of the Palestinian genocide. And if we don't immediately change policy with someone in alignment with us, the Palestinian people are in danger of being destroyed. It's a harsh thing to say, but it is what America is doing. It's what we're all guilty of. So if we pass up on executive power, it will go into the hands of a virulent Zionist like Gavin Newsom. Furthermore, the left will fail. DSA will fail. DSA has never grown under an establishment Democrat politician because our politics have no credibility with the masses. You could even run a presidential candidate. Why would anyone believe in anything we're saying? Any normie will check out immediately, and a DSA will die out. Meanwhile, the establishment will focus all their efforts in a unified fashion to contain us, which is exactly what they did under Joe Biden. So the socialist movement in America will be contained. Furthermore, they will continue to pursue maximum pressure on all left. We will also enter into a Cold War with China. Gavin Newsom will empower the billionaire oligarchs. He's allied with Palantir. He's allied with the tech bros, the tech oligarchs, crypto, gambling, Kalshi shit. All that stuff will go to the fucking moon. They will prosecute pro-Palestinian advocates. They will enact we will all be labeled anti-Semitic hate speech for protesting Palestine. They will censor us off the internet. Again, all of this is not, I'm not trying to tell you that this has some sort of panic. I'm telling you this is what they have planned. This is what the establishment Democrats and Republicans are openly advocating for. The only reason they're quiet about it is because they're worried about AOC winning. And they will spend hundreds of millions of dollars of throwing Daria Lisa, Claire Valdez, Milad Kuros, and Chris Rabb out of office. If Gavin Newsom is in, they will be a massive, overwhelming effort to turn out DSA reps at every position they have. This is what will happen. How do I know? It's exactly what happened when Joe Biden was president. You're advocating for Joe Biden to be president again, basically.
Kind of putting the cart before the horse. And the inevitable outcome of that, I think, is going to be...
Okay, so, you know, I'm fired up about this because it's obviously wrong, and I don't know how you can believe this. The idea that this is not a video game. This is not an RPG where we have to do level 1 socialism. Level 2 socialism is running for local office. Level 3 socialism is running for state rep. Level 4 socialism is running for Congress. Level 5 socialism is then we run for this. And then level 6 socialism, level 100 socialism is revolution. That's not how it works. We have thermostatic waves of sentiment where the masses searching for the opportunity for change are trying on a lot of hats because to them, the material conditions are worsening. And they're grasping at every straw. They tried Obama, hope it changed, failed them. They tried Trump because that was the exact opposite of Obama. A fascist, reactionary, America first, blow up the system guy. Then when they grasped how bad that was, they grasped for Biden. Well, maybe we could do so, return to normalcy, go back to brunch, Democratic party adult in the room. And then they saw the failure of American foreign policy, the Gaza genocide. And then they back with Trump. They're desperately trying to grasp at everything. And right now, the fascists, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the fascists, they're consolidating power a lot better than we are. They've enacted their Gestapo. They've got a Supreme Court, a radical 6-3 Supreme Court that is overturning the New Deal, is overturning the civil rights movement. They are gerrymandering every single state they have power in so that no Democrat can ever win. They're consolidating power. They're proposing anti-democratic legislation to try to form up their ability to win no matter what the sentiment is. They're allying and lining up the executive powers of the government with corporate control. Like, are you not paying attention? And the alternative of, and so like the idea of like we'll work our way up is just nonsense. Zoran didn't work his way up. Bernie didn't work his way up. We won because we saw the sentiment of the American people aligned with what we believed, and we ran bold campaigns and we pushed for maximum power. And if we are in the executive, and yes, there's going to be a lot of pushback. Good. The pushback is the point. I want AOC in office with a robust national DSA and 50 members of Congress. And when the establishment tries to crush us, that is a point of rupture. And then we can appeal to the masses. We will have the White House. We will have the bully pulpit. And so when Chuck Schumer tries to stab AOC in the back and we fight back, we will have the bully pulpit. We will be in the catbird seat. We will be the ones making the decisions. We will be the ones organizing. I honest to God, like for me, this is the exact opposite of reality. Before Bernie Sanders, there were 6,500 members in DSA. 6,500 members in DSA. After the 2020 Bernie Sanders campaign, there was just short of 100,000. And after Joe Biden went into office, for the next 4 years, DSA declined by 40%. When there was no campaign, when there was no national purpose, when there was no possibility of power, people checked the fuck out. They checked the fuck out. They gave up. So if you joined DSA in the last 5 years, prior to Zoran Mamdani, you joined an empire in decline. DSA was in decline. And it was with the announcement of Zoran Mamdani and the campaign for an office he had no business running for. Do you understand that? When Zoran Mamdani ran for mayor of New York, he had no business running for that. No business. No chance. 1% of the polls. And he fucking won. And what has that done for our movement? Yeah, he's had to make compromises. Yeah, there's things that I wish he didn't do, or I wish he had more power to oppose the NYPD. I wish, the Jessica Tisch shit is annoying. He hasn't been able to accomplish every single thing he ran on yet. But he has managed to increase, the people approve of him. More and more people are identifying as socialists. Go look at any fucking public post with Zoran Mamdani talking about being a mayor. And there are people from around the world saying, I wish he was my mayor. He gives me hope. Normal people, regular people are identifying with our movement. Now, are they perfect socialists? Is it socialism? Whatever theoretical nerd shit you fantasize about in your head? No. But the point is getting the heart and soul of the masses on our side and giving them a political home. And you say we should turn our noses up at the best opportunity our movement has ever had in our entire history for executive power, and you're saying, no, thank you, it'll be hard. No, thank you, we might have to do something where we compromise our, they're gonna make us have to do something we don't want to do. I'm gonna tell you the thing your parents should have told you. Do your homework. Eat your vegetables.
Really devastating, because you're going to have generations of people understanding socialism as being something that can be comfortably tied to imperial policy. So
and there it is. There it is. He identifies as a socialist, and he thinks if AOC wins, she might do something that'll make him tied to that bad thing. And so for him, executive power in the most powerful state in the world is not worth pursuing because it might make people think socialism is something that is bad.
Something that could be comfortably tied to these sort of establishment asks, and maybe even just these establishment concessions. And what do we, as the left who might support AOC, tell our comrades across the world when US bombs don't stop dropping with her in office? A lot of us are inevitably going to have to be pushed into a corner where we either disavow her actions, which is the, I think, smart thing to do, or more likely for a lot of people, try to figure out ways to defend them, thus diluting the larger project entirely and tying the US left, as it's been for years in some ways, to US empire. I mean, for God's sakes, this is the same woman who's basically just pushing J Street talking points in regards to Palestine at this point, and we want to put her in executive office where she's going to be surrounded by Zionists who are going to bend her even more right than she already kind of is on some of these issues. And it's going to lead to a fucking headache for a lot of people.
Oh my God. Take an Advil. Take a fucking Advil. Ouchie, I got a headache. Guys, I got a headache. These problems are so hard. It's giving me a headache. Take a fucking Advil.
A headache that could actually have real harm, do real damage to a larger socialist movement across the country.
See, here's the thing. Here's the problem that I have with this. And I'm sorry this sounds like infighting and I'm very pissed, but like, you have no plan. You have no predictions. You have nothing that I can hold you accountable to. You have no theory. You have no hypothesis. You have no idea of what is supposed to happen. And like, you're just saying things might happen that we don't like. Yes, it's called the future, man. You know what happened, chat? And let's be completely dead fucking honest. Let's be completely dead fucking honest. A lot of people made their bones whining about AOC on social media. Let's be dead fucking honest about this. And when AOC runs and she wins and she's popular, these people, if you're stuck in the AOC sucks ghetto with Jimmy Dore and Brianna Joy Gray, you're not going to grow. And there's anxiety about it. That's all it is. That's what it is. And at a certain point, what do you want me to say? I have to pretend that this is an argument? Saying you made your bones by posting is laughable. Well, I mean, where do these people, they have Twitter accounts, so they have TikTok accounts. That's their bones. They make money from it. Here is the DSA Socialists, Democratic Socialists of America search interests. You see how it kind of bumped up for now? Do you see it? Do you see that? See that line going up? That's what they hate. And I think the thing that bothers me the most about this is there's no idea of what's supposed to happen or what we're supposed to do. We're going to build a congressional block while ignoring the presidency. Are you an electoral? Have you ever worked in a campaign? What is your honest to God resume for talking about campaigning? Who have you won with? What campaign have you run? Have you worked as a finance director, a field organizer, a field director, a political director, a campaign manager? Were you a politician? Like, what do you know about running for office?
I get it, right? It's flashy to say that we can put a socialist into office. Really, she's more of a social democrat, but whatever. It's flashy to be able to say that we've beaten the establishment at the highest possible office, but when you don't lay the groundwork and you don't seemingly have a plan for how to handle the real harm that she may be complicit in, then everything kind of gets
We do the same thing that you do now. Oh, God, don't like that. We're going to do the same thing that you do now. Whine about it online. You can still whine about it online.
Is that if we're going to be engaging in U.S. electoral politics, we need to be understanding that we have to build coalitions and majorities on local levels upward, moving from the...
Sorry, that theory doesn't... That's not right. Your theory's wrong, bro. Your theory is a testable prediction. It's wrong. It's called 2020 to 2024. We tried that strategy, bro. It didn't work. It didn't work. The reason why Zoran was able to win is because there was an opening for our politics, because we were not being contained. The establishment was discredited. We had an opportunity to run. Like the idea that we're going to just Zoran ran because that was the biggest office in the entire country that was available. Mayor of America's largest city. In 2025, that was the biggest office to run for. And all the people that won this year, they won because that was the best opportunity we had for power federally.
Round up to the executive level to ensure that if we seize executive power, we have the majority.
You can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. You can run for executive seats down ballot while running for president. You can do the same thing at the same time. You don't have to do one and then do the other. We have the ability to do both at the same time. In fact, the best time for those people to run and challenge the establishment is while AOC is giving them air cover. Because, and James, this is why I completely disagree with you, is I understand how campaigns work. Let's say that I want to run for Congress in Koreatown, you know, in LA. I decide there's a super Zionist named Gomez in LA, in the heart of LA. This guy takes like $5 million from AIPAC. What's his name? Jimmy Gomez. That's why it popped into my head. Let's say that we would decide we want to run against Jimmy Gomez. If somebody does it in 2028, and AOC is saying, cut off funding to Israel, Medicare for all, Green New Deal, free college, blah, 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 blah. And then I also say, hey, and everybody loves AOC in my district. And then I pop up and say, I agree with AOC. I'm a DSA endorsed candidate. She's a DSA endorsed candidate. We agree on everything. And when my canvassers knock on a door and they're going to say, hi, I'm from the Mike from PA campaign. Oh, he's running for Congress. I'm like, oh, what does he believe? Oh, he's running for DSA. They endorsed AOC too. He believes a lot of the, oh my God, I love AOC. Give me that. I'll vote for him too. That's how it works. That's how it worked in New York. That's why all those people won, is when people knocked on the door, they said, this is Zoran's buddy. Oh, I love Zoran. Voting for Claire. It was a way of getting in the door with regular people who are running for. So if you believe in what you're saying, which is we need to form an executive block, excuse me, a legislative block to support the executive, then why don't you look at the way things are actually occurring in reality right now, bro? And the reason why I'm so angry about this is we don't have a chance to fuck with this. We don't have the time to fuck around and go, I don't know, guys. AOC is kind of imperfect. Guys, I don't know. She's a little bit imperfect. I didn't like her vote in 2021 to vote present when 4 people, the vote was 420 to 9. She voted present. And I don't know. I would rather one of the people that voted for the thing win. What are you saying? And now she says, I would vote against that. She's better than she was on a vote that the only vote you know. What votes do you know? How many votes do you know? You want to bring up these votes, they're just cherry picked. They're talking points for you. You don't have an understanding of legislative history. You don't have an understanding of passing laws. You don't have an understanding of like whipping votes. You don't know any of that shit. Who are we kidding? You're cherry picking some shit you saw on Twitter. Let's be serious here for a second. What are you talking about, man? What are you saying?
And pluralities to actually make that power work for us. So yeah, we could get AOC.
Like when I was phone banking for Maylot, the majority of people I got to vote was because I said she was Bernie Sanders endorsed. Yes, of course. Of course, that's how it works. Ask somebody who runs as a progressive who doesn't have any endorsements versus somebody who's running as a progressive who has Zoran behind them. The night and day difference that made. Because normies are the people who vote. It's not DSA. We have 120,000 people. We couldn't win a fucking dog catcher race on DSA members alone. We are at the vanguard. We're out here. We are the hyper elite, politically engaged people. We are not normal.
In 2028, maybe. I mean, I'm still unsure if she would win the primary or the general, especially given that she is a self-proclaimed socialist from New York City. But, you know, I just don't know what the plan really is beyond getting her into office and saying, hell yeah, we did it. Will there probably be attempts at alleviating material conditions for those of us within the empire itself? Probably. Right? I mean, that's, I think, what would be on the table even for a social democrat. But it's, to me, I'm unsure if we can even get a lot of that done, given the composition of Congress, and how much of that is going to be done on the backs of people in the global south who will still be facing the brunt of U.S. imperience. Essentially, what we've seen from her so far, I think...
I understand a lot of... wow. Whew.
Though it's obtained a lot of fanfare, hasn't been all that impressive. And realistically, we're elevating her into the highest position of government.
She is a backbencher in Congress, bro. She has no power. All she could do is tell normies our views and get more people to like them, which is exactly what she did. She has been an overwhelming success in normalizing democratic socialism. What do you want her to do? Rule as king from a backbench in Congress?
Without the actual backing to make that government work in any way other than what it's already doing. But yeah, just my rant, I guess. Like, I think, go into more detail about why I think she's really faulty on things like Palestine, why I think she made wrong votes on labor, particularly with the rail workers strike.
Again, cherry picking situations where AOC openly acknowledged, like, hey, we're making this vote on the rail. I talked to the leaders of the union. They said they were going to, and then when they got concessions, you know who they cited? U.S. rail companies grant paid sick days after public pressure and win for unions. Okay. The news is impossible to get. I hate Google Stuff now. Holy shit. He thanked Bernie Sanders and I think AOC, didn't they? I have to find it. Only because I am an eidetic memory do I have to, give me a second. I'm sorry, I have to take the time. I have to take the time to find it. Sanders, Bowman, Tlaib, Ocasio-Cortez paid Bush lead letter with more than 70 total signers in the Senate House urging Biden to take executive action on paid sick days for rail workers. Oh, damn. Hard-fought successes on rail sick days. I mean, I remember. What people use as talking points, I remember. After months of negotiations, the IBEW's railroad members at 4 of the largest U.S. freight carriers finally have what they've long sought that many working people take for granted, paid sick days. We're thankful that the Biden administration played the long game on sick days and stuck with us for months after Congress imposed our updated national agreement. Without making a big show of it, Joe Biden and members of the administration and transportation and labor departments have been working continuously to get paid sick days for all railroad workers. We know that many of our members weren't happy with their original agreement, but through it all, we had faith that our friends in the White House and Congress would keep up the pressure on our railroad employers to get us the sick day benefits we deserve. Russo is grateful that Sanders stepped in. Said Senator Bernie Sanders last year the companies you lead made over $22 billion in profits. Russo is grateful that Sanders stepped in. We truly compliment his effort to bring dignity to workers in the rail industry. Without it, we very likely would not have gotten what we gained today. Like she literally fought with the union leaders. Here's the IBEW government affairs statement on this issue. Again, obviously, it sucks that this happened. It does. But did she leave them in the lurch? Absolutely not. As a backbencher with Bernie Sanders, they worked to get them the sick days, which is why Bernie Sanders cited her in their fight. So it's like the most pro-union person in Congress is AOC, and you're trying to pretend like she's anti-union. Like, it's bullshit. And again, what is it for? Again, it's not like there's somebody else who's super popular who's a better socialist than AOC. Right? Like, this is the thing that frustrates me is AOC. I could show you my spreadsheet. 97% voting the right way. Am I mad about the 3%? Do I wish it was 100%? Yeah, I do. Did she endorse Kamala Harris over Donald Trump? Yes, she did. Did I dislike that decision? Yes. But is every single tactical decision mean that she's going to betray me forever and always? Even though she's with me on almost everything, 99%, 97% of the time. Rashida Tlaib is 99%. We're talking about years and years and years and years and years and always making the tough votes. Fighting to recognize the Nakba, which almost no Democrat does. 6.5% of Democrats support recognizing the Nakba. 6.5%. Look at this red streak. These are all the Democrats in Congress. None of them want to tax millionaires. None of them want to recognize the Nakba. She will be changing the face of the Democratic Party. And if you're saying the president doesn't matter, did you sleep through the last 12 years? Has Donald Trump not rebuilt the entire Republican Party in his own image? Did he not just throw out multiple senators who bucked him? Like, what the fuck are you saying? Now, yes, of course, she's not going to be able to do everything I want her to do. Yes, she'll probably have compromises. God forbid there's some sort of horrible attack that happens when she's president. But, like, I almost don't even believe it. Like, I can't believe I'm having these conversations. And then the other thing, and the thing that really grosses me out, is these same people they're drafting off of Daria Lisa and Claire Valdez, and Zoran Mamdani, and Chris Rabb, and Maylot, and Francesca Hong. You draft off of these electoral victories because they go viral, but you're working overtime to disorganize the people that are excited with what amounts to non-substantive points. And like, I'm sorry I took so much time. This was like a massive regret of mine. I regret I even watched that video. In the future, I won't. Because all it does is piss me off and ruin the vibes. Because this doesn't work. Me being right on this stuff and arguing this way doesn't work. People just get mad and they get personally aggrieved. And then they look for any opportunity where I'm vulnerable to boost. They don't give a shit about this stuff. They don't care about what I'm saying. They're not persuaded. It is just a fucking social media game. And calling it out doesn't help me. Like, it doesn't help me, and it doesn't even accomplish the goal. They're best ignored when they have bad takes. I regret this entire section because it literally doesn't matter. And changing his mind doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't. The best thing to do is ignore that shit and work around it. You know, like, that's the best way to deal with it. I'm sorry. Make these people irrelevant by winning. And it's like, I don't even want to make these videos because, again, they don't work. They don't, like, people don't care about the arguments. They don't care about the facts. They don't. I mean, you guys do. You're my fans. You're the fucking weirdos who do. But, like, other people don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. That's why they don't make any predictions that could be tested. Mike is doing this bi-weekly, and I regret it every time. And I'm going to start banning people, honestly, who link me that shit. Because all that happens is it's fucking useless. It makes me emotional. It's useless, and it's fucking pointless. Like, these people don't care about the facts. Okay? They don't. But I'll find them in the group chats promoting, you know, the next DSA rep. They'll be in the group chats, okay? They'll be in the group chat posting the next DSA electoral campaign that's going viral. Don't you worry. Meanwhile, they'll be telling their audience dumbass fucking shit that works against what we're trying to do. It doesn't mean anything. It's just hand-wringing. It's not strategizing on how to push her left, back her up, or build power. It's trying to halt the attempt at all. Well, the thing is, like, they're scared of winning because they'll be associated with her winning. Because they don't study anything. They don't know anything. Like, here's the thing. Most people are illiterate. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Most people are illiterate and they have no historical knowledge whatsoever. I meet a person who is what I would consider competently aware of the world around them, 1 out of like 200 people I meet. And I don't mean that, like, obviously my audience is full of those people. Most of the time I meet someone who's competent about history, they already know who I am and they say, hey, Mike, I'm a fan of yours. And I'm like, oh, so if I talk to them about something, they'll have heard of it. But the average person doesn't even know what the New Deal is. The average person has no idea anything. So they have a hard time reading. Like reading a paragraph and telling you what the thesis and the arguments were and like telling you what the meaning of the paragraph, they can't do it. So I'm sitting here, you know, writing my arguments and what do they say? Oh, I'm going to ignore that because it's all been said before. Okay, can you make your point? They can't make a point. I think these growing pains are poisonous this late in the game. We need a DSA leadership to mature and understand the price of power to get... I mean, I regret this entire conversation, honestly. Because the net effect is just me being angry at somebody who had a really bad post and just being honestly having my morale damaged. It's better for me just never to see that post. Because the answer is, like, and I'm being completely honest with you, when whatever DSA candidate starts going viral and winning, they'll be there retweeting and commenting on it and going, yay. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see that shit. It's just psychic damage and it makes me disrespect more people. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, who gives a fuck? The promise, it's not helpful to comment. Yeah, don't post a video on that. I don't need his fans getting mad at me because they like their guy. I learned that lesson a long time ago, is that it's like the stronger your argument, the less people care. You have AOC, Mamdani, and Hassan actively growing DSA and through their actions making their stance known without getting bogged down in fights. Exactly. 100,000% correct. I don't need to correct the idiots because they don't matter. They don't matter. It just ruins the vibes. I'll just be honest with you. I don't think many of the people that talk about politics as an influencer know anything. 99% of them are fucking useless. There, I said it. You want me to be honest? Most of them are useless. You know the people I like. It's not that hard to figure out. If I don't actively promote them on a regular basis, I probably think they're not very good at this. Like, what do you want me to say? All right, moving on. On to the war. God damn. Honest to God. Probably, like, one of the most aggravating wastes of my time in the stream's history. Like, absolutely one of the bottom tier segments in the history of the stream. I might want to say that it might be the worst stream that I've done in years. You gotta stop being rage baited. Oh, no, you're 100%. Like, this stream is damaged by me showing my contempt for people who don't know what they're talking about. Because most people don't know what they're talking about. So what's the fucking point? People come here to learn. You know, like, they come here to learn and have a cool socialist place where we can win and we have, like, a plan. Me being frustrated that other people are spreading disinformation that's useless, all it does is alienate people. Mike, I wanted to applaud you for the self-reflection you talked about yesterday. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, I'm not infallible. Like, I make mistakes. Sorry it was necessary. No, it's not necessary. It's a 5,000 like TikTok. Who gives a fuck? I wasted an hour of my life pissing myself off and possibly alienating another creator that might retweet my shit in the future. You know what I mean? It's fucking useless. There wasn't one point made that I needed it to address. You know, like, if the best way to counter these narratives is winning. The best way to counter these narratives is to get bigger. Like, that is the secret of Hassan. He agrees with me. Hassan agrees with me. Except his strategy is, I'll be nice to everyone all the time. And since I'm so big and people are greedy and they want my audience, how many times have you seen people go after me and they go, but there's an exception to Hassan? Cavernacle, perfect example, right? Cavernacle sat there and was like, well, there's an exception with Hassan. Why? Because Hassan is so big, he's greedy for his audience, so he judges him differently than everyone else. He's, you know, like, that's a principleless position, but he's taking it because of self-interest. Like, what do you want me to say? Anyway, all I'm trying to say to everybody is, let's not do that. Let's not do that anymore. Let's not do that anymore. If you see me getting rage baited, go ahead and step in. Say, like, we need to have a safe word. What's our safe word? Banana. Okay, let's do banana. Forest X is good. I like banana. What are people saying banana? You know, we'll do some bananas in the chat because I'm turning into an enraged ape. Actually, not banana. I don't want people putting bananas in the chat. I changed my mind. It's not banana. That's a bad one. Let's make it peach. Let's make it peach because it's a more funny. It's funnier. I don't want people putting bananas in the chat because banana can be associated with something else and people might think that that is like racial or something. You know what I mean? Let's do peach. I don't want anybody thinking it's like some sort of racial thing. Peaches are funnier. Peach is the buttocks. All right. Anyway, yeah. One of the things that I want to say before we go on is just like intelligence is how I don't care how easily you retain facts. I don't care how much you know. I don't care how good you are at a task. Intelligence is getting what you want, achieving your goals. That's the only way to measure intelligence that matters. And I've valued way too much facts and being correct and being, honest in my presentation that I have damaged my own ability to achieve my goals by being confrontational when it doesn't serve us.
Details. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Getting what you want from what you have is strategy. Exactly. We need to be better at that.
Good morning, gang. We're waiting now for that blockade to go into effect, which would happen.
Yesterday, you were talking about comradeship. Do you feel like you can maintain comradeship with somebody you disagree with at the level you were earlier? No. I think like the reason why I get so angry on this issue in particular is because it's so obviously wrong and there is no arguments in favor of it. And the people that are presenting it are doing it for ego reasons. And they have no facts or logic or plan or anything positive that I could look at and say, that makes sense. I disagree, but that makes sense. It's all vibes and social media grifting, 100%. And so I have a hard time maintaining comradeship with it. And the best strategy is just ignore.
In a little less than 8 hours from now, in the run-up, there's been a flurry of Iran firing on commercial shipping, where the Dutch shipper Stolt Tankers now confirms that one of their tankers, flagged the Stolt Magnesium, flagged out of Liberia, was hit. That started a fire in the engine room. And when we are seeing these strikes on the commercial shipping, oftentimes they are hit in the engine room, which shows...
Laney says there's a lot of amateur political commentary out there that should be ignored. Yes, that's going to be my strategy. Like... I believe that what we should do is focus on positively making the case and ignoring those people.
Precision fire on the part of the Iranians. The crew was accounted for. United Arab Emirates had 2 tankers who were hit. 1 crew member was killed. Strikes on commercial shipping prompted the U.S. to launch strikes. We've got video of a fire burning on Kish Island in the Strait after the U.S. strikes. But the U.S. hit a number of targets up and down the coast of Iran. As the president says, the U.S. is going to take control of the Strait and charge 20% reimbursement for security.
We're putting the blockade back. And it's a blockade not for anybody but Iran. In other words, anybody doing business with Iran can't go.
Can we also point out that you might be getting too big of an audience for this? It might need to shift to a more Hassan model. Yes.
Everyone else will be able to go through. So it's a blockade. It's a very strong blockade. The blockade was probably more effective even than hitting them. But I think the combination is the thing that really does it.
For the first time, the U.S. used sea drones to attack an enemy. Central Command says the drones hit Bandar Abbas. The targets were a ship repair facility and a submarine. U.S. Central Command says they have been hitting maritime targets, coastal facilities, and hardware to launch missiles and drones. Ainsley, guys, back to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
So the president is making it clear that Iran needs to come to the negotiating table.
You said a while back that a lot of people would rather be a big fish in a little pond than a little fish in a big pond. And I think a lot of people online tend to fall in that mindset. Well, they also would rather be a big fish in a small pond than a big fish in a big pond, right? It's relative. Like they would rather be smaller to be the biggest. And that's the left in America. It's like, I'm sorry, but when I look at DSA, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by how small it is. People patting themselves on the back for 120,000 members is a fucking joke.
But it doesn't look like they're doing much negotiating. They continue to say that America is the aggressors. I mean, we gave them that one day to honor their supreme leader, and then they were crying in the middle of the street, death to America, death to Israel, and we've already uncovered another plot for them to try to assassinate President Trump. So the president is trying to get the world on board now. I understand.
How can I stop myself from getting mad at friends who are doomers about AOC? They don't think she would win. Don't do what I did. The answer is show facts that are positive and become positive and be like, well, I'll just be right. Here's all of the people in Congress fundraising. AOC raised $27.4 million. and has 14.6 million cash on hand. Like, this is the reality, is that AOC is top of the top. She's the strongest representative in Congress. If she can't do it, nobody can. All right, let's go and cover this war.
The biggest single-day jump in oil prices in 6 years. Why? Well, new explosions reported in Iran as the U.S. and Tehran...
What the fuck is the Iranian embassy posting?
I will never give you up. The Strait of Hormuz must be shut. Blockade, blockade. In my head, just blockade. Please let the ships go through. Come on, at least a few.
He's never had hair this long.
If you block me, then I block you. Blockade, blockade. I thought this was easy peasy. Blockade. Now Mecca and Melania leave me. Blockade. Surrender is beneath.
This is the last year his penis worked.
Blockade, blockade. I think soon I get impeachy.
Johnny Five is like...
Sneakers for Linksander.
And today's popular music, Blockade by Trump. I think one of the things about politics in general is you just don't need to take yourself seriously. Like, I honestly believe Zohran Mamdani is the person who appropriately understands how to treat politics, which is you should be acting like you're about to start laughing. Like, that's the only way to stay sane. If you get mad like I do, you're just gonna have a coronary. You just gotta laugh at this shit. That's what I need to learn.
Trade strikes for a third straight night. At 4 p.m. Eastern today, the United States says it will resume its naval blockade of ships going to and from Iranian ports. President Trump says the U.S. will become the guardian.
I absolutely loved his response to the Boris Cat taunting question. Oh, yeah, send that to me. I want to show you. It's perfect.
Of the Strait of Hormuz. He also announced plans to implement a toll, charging 20% of the value of cargo on ships as a reimbursement to the United States. That is in direct contradiction to things that his vice president, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Treasury have all said. Let's get to CNN's Betsy Klein at the White House for the latest on what you're seeing this morning, Betsy.
Well, the White House clearly watching those gas prices very, very closely with no signs of de-escalation for this conflict. The U.S. launching a third consecutive night of strikes across Iran, Iran responding in kind with attacks across Gulf states. But the Strait of Hormuz, that critical oil thoroughfare, continues to be the main point of contention here. Prior to this conflict, no one had full authority over this waterway. Iran now using it as a key point of leverage as President Trump announces that he will reimpose that blockade on all ships traversing to and from Iranian ports. He also says that there will be a 20% fee for all commercial vessels going through the strait that he says is for the U.S. provided security in that very dangerous area. Now, officials have previously said that it's really unclear if this can work. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has flat out questioned whether this comports with international law. President Trump himself had previously said that it's an international waterway and he didn't want tolls. But as we think about a path forward to this conflict, I just want to draw your attention to recent comments from President Trump about this memorandum of understanding. That is that now defunct peace agreement signed just about a month ago. When he signed that agreement, the president touted it. He said that it was an agreement that achieves everything he set out to accomplish. He pointed to Iran never having a nuclear weapon, the Strait of Hormuz being open, as well as ending this conflict. But listen to what he said about that memorandum of understanding just yesterday.
It didn't look. Memorandum of understanding when you're dealing with sleazebags don't mean much. And they don't mean much when you're dealing with honorable people, too, because it's a memorandum of understanding. It doesn't mean much. And I said, why are we even, it's a standard tactic in the U.S. that you go to a memorandum of understanding and then you go to the deal. I said, just go to the deal first. But you know what? It was sort of a test, and they weren't there.
Those comments raising major questions about the strategy going forward. And all of this comes as President Trump has formally notified Congress that the U.S. military has resumed action against Iran. He says that that action will be limited.
We want to start charging people to go through international waterways. When you hear things like that, I mean, is this just that, I don't know, is it just incompetence? Is it just that Trump and his team are just really not on the same page, or that Trump wants to change the status quo of how the world works?
Well, I think more than anything else, it's Trump making things up as he goes along, which is very much on point with him, which is very much part of the brand. He was asked a question, he needed to come up with an answer, and that's the one he came up with, which is pretty consistent. Look, here's what it takes. Quite aside from 20% is far more than even the Iranians are charging. Those are very, very large tankers. When you say 20% of the value of their cargo, depending on what they're carrying, let's say it's oil, let's say it's at current prices, we're talking about $70, $80 million. Iran wants to charge $2 million. So if you're a shipping company, who would you rather pay? But anyway, that's aside.
The art of the deal.
Let's set this aside.
Sounds like the
what
tariffs.
does it take?
Exactly.
What does it take for the United States to get into a position where it can say we are the guardians of the strait? What it takes is to have military control of both sides of those waters, which means putting boots on the ground in Iran, controlling the Iranian territory overlooking the Straits of Hormuz, which means putting, by the administration's own calculations, which mean putting enormous amounts of American blood and treasure into a full-fledged war. You can't, at the one side, say we're not going to have a full-fledged war, we're not going to put American boots on the ground, and also say we are going to control the state. That square into that circle simply
and as we have learned, Emily, I mean, if controlling the strait were so easy, we would have done it by now, and we haven't.
Yeah. I mean, in order to control the state, they'll. This is something that I said months and months ago, which the only way to control the strait is to physically invade Iran and hold the entire Persian Gulf coast. And even then, they'll have to push very deep into Iran to get outside the loitering range of the munitions. This is not something that they add, or they're just going to have professional merchant marines that are basically compelled to sail. So in other words, draft the sailors and force them to sail, a la what happened in convoys in World War II, where it's just basically people that are ordered to take the risk. And I don't know about you, but if I'm a civilian merchant or mariner, I'm getting the fuck out of there, and I'm doing the, I'd rather do the shipments from China to, Europe, okay, or China to the U.S. East Coast. I'm not going to the Persian Gulf. Fuck you.
First of all, we will agree right now. I literally think Trump made that up on the phone call. You could tell he just was like having a silly time. I know. I also want to point out, this is just being like technical here. Vance and Rubio, I'm not saying they had discussed this by any means, are talking about international waterways. Now,
they were talking specifically about the Strait of Hormuz in those clips, yes.
So I laughed at this, but if I'm being completely honest, I think it's a huge threat to the entire world that Iran can just decide when or when not to open up the Strait of Hormuz.
Totally.
So personally, again, as an American, I like to be on the winning side. I wouldn't mind. Second of all, I don't know why this just reminds me of the Panama Canal.
You wouldn't mind why?
If America controlled the strait.
But here's
the thing.
I'm sure no one
he's
would
not
mind.
being serious. I don't even think he's being serious. I'm saying if somehow there's a tangible way that it can be done, I think that will be a massive plus for our economy. I think most of Panama's GDP is from the Panama Canal. I mean, if we can have the, wait, you're telling me if we can have the Strait of Hormuz, you wouldn't take the Strait of Hormuz?
Girl, yes, but how are we going to get it?
We'll figure that out.
No, at this point. In all seriousness, is there anything about? No, I'm not saying that taking the strait is a bad thing. What I'm saying is, at this point in this execution of this war, it's done, it's not done. Do you actually think that there is a plan from Donald Trump to get us out of this situation?
Right now, this minute?
Yes.
Actually, yes.
Okay.
After hearing him speak today,
I want to tell you because.
I don't know how much
You're
the rest
too
of the
smart
world.
for that, Emily.
No.
You're too smart for that.
No, she's not. Also, she doesn't give a fuck about being smart or not being smart. They see us as peasants. We are in, like, a lot of the reality that's happening is, how do I explain that? We are entering a period where the loss of the society of modernity is upon us. the acid communism, where what I mean by acid communism is it's actually acid capitalism, where everything that is sacred has been profaned. A lot of people used to be held in check by a belief in objective morality, right? Like we had these social beliefs that, like, for example, if I lie, I'm going to go to hell, right? The idea of like a cosmic panopticon that was weighing the scales of our behavior as a form of like supernatural cooperation enforcement, where norms and beliefs existed. We are now dissolved. All of that has been dissolved. None of us really believe in being punished for what we do. None of the Christians believe in hell, really. They don't act as if, the beliefs they supposedly purport to believe are going to enforce on them. We live in a post-truth world. We live in a moment of nihilism. So people like us in this community, those of us who are on the left, we have already reckoned with the reality that God is dead. We have already reckoned with the idea that there isn't some objective morality. And we have come through an existentialist lens, a humanist lens, that everything is permitted. The universe is uncaring and cold and dead, and no one's listening to our prayers. We all know that. And instead of embracing nihilism, instead of embracing hedonism, and instead of embracing sadism, we have embraced collective joy. We have embraced love. We have joined in solidarity with one another. And we've said, there is no paradise. We have to build it together. We choose to love one another because to us, there's no other choice, right? We choose each other. We choose love. Even if love ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, dies like everything else, while we are together, we will burn brightly. We will build something that matters. And it matters because of each other. That's the only value in the universe, right? That's what we know. But for them, it's the opposite. Because there is no truth, then I might as well lie. If everything's just chemicals in my brain, I might as well just do whatever I can to have the pleasure chemicals in my brain. I have no higher value. I have no truth. I have nothing I value but myself. They've fully embraced the meaningless of life. That is the right. She lies because it profits her to lie, and she doesn't give a fuck. Our society will only change when people like that suffer. They have to be prevented from getting advancement. They should be isolated. They should be exiled. They should be turned out. They should be fired. They should not profit from nihilism. Nihilism has to be unprofitable. Sophistry has to be a death to your credibility. You won't believe what job she has. Hot girl for Cuomo founder and pro-Israel influencer Emily Austin resigned from her position as commissioner of the Nassau County Bridge Authority. Her resignation comes after it was reported she missed the last 6 in-person board meetings. You see what I mean about nihilism?
Emily DeSantis should make us appreciate Obama's deal a lot more, because without depleting
that's an oxymoron.
Listen, without depleting our missile stockpiles and without letting them gain control of the Strait of Hormuz, we were able to accomplish a deal. We are now 135 days into this war that was supposed to be 4 to 6 weeks.
Obama's deal would be ending right now.
100 days. There was a phase 2.
Is in trouble.
There was 100 days ago a tweet from Trump where he said unconditional surrender is what we're going to get from Iran. Since then, they still have missiles. They still fund their proxies. They still have the nuclear capacity, and the regime has not been changed. So our generation is bearing the brunt of this cost. We are bearing the brunt of this war cost, and our debt is already massive. The Obama deal did not put us into debt. Okay, what do you mean? Can I ask you, what concession have we gotten from Iran so far? Horace, what concession have we gotten from Iran so far?
Do you know who the biggest critics are of Obama's plan? It is the Middle East region. All of those partners sitting around, they criticize
the partners that now have to pay $300 billion to Iran, the
Regardless
Gulf
of what
allies?
they have to pay, they asked for relief from what they called a very terrible plan. So when you go around saying it was so great and you outline it...
I'm not saying it was great, but they are begging for relief right now. I'm saying it's better than this. Horace, can you name one concession we've gotten from Iran?
Now.
Can you name one concession?
Actually, Horace, I will say they are not really saying a whole lot of anything right now.
Yeah. They're saying privately.
And also, let's just be clear. This past week has been really terrible for those allies. Bahrain has been put under fire. U.S. military facilities in Kuwait, Iran claims that they're targeting the UAE, other Gulf states. It's pretty bad right now in the region.
It's time for some Holy Toledo.
Hey, friends, you know, when we're talking about the Trump administration, the bill has come due. The cost to Americans, billions have been lost since Trump took office. We're talking about tariffs, the Iran war. We're talking about tourism. And we're going to go through it because I have looked through hundreds, if not thousands, of data points to find out, boom, what is the bill when it comes both to the do-re-mi as well as the cost in public opinion, not just here in the United States, but around the globe. And we're going to start off with tariffs. Take a look here. Okay, the loss to GDP in 2025, Trump's tariffs. Look at this. We're talking about $180 billion, $180 billion with a B. That is eye-popping. But it's not just the do-re-mi. It's, of course, the court of public opinion as well. And take a look here. Okay, we're talking about our allies, right? The net approval rating of Trump on tariffs. Look at this. In Canada, we're talking 65 points underwater for our neighbors in the north. They hate the tariffs. Hate, hate, hate. Now, of course, we're talking about the first ally, really, for the United States when it was born all the way back in 1776, 250 years ago. Look at this, 74 points underwater. But you think that's low? You ain't seen nothing yet. We're talking about Germany. Look at this, 83 points underwater. Woof. Now, you know what? It would be one thing. It'd be one thing if there was the cost to America and the allies didn't like it, but maybe Americans liked it. But do we like new tariffs? No, we don't. No, we don't. Look at this. Okay, U.S. Americans on new tariffs on imported goods. You know, you go back to November of 2024. Look at this. 52% of Americans favored it, 48% opposed. Well, now we are in a completely different world. Yes, we are. We come back to the screen here. In 2026, look at this. 63% of Americans oppose these new tariffs on imported goods. That's up 15 points. Meanwhile, woo, down we go. 37% now favor it. We're right into the Hudson River right here in New York in terms of the favor on tariffs. Now, in terms of the cost to Americans, the cost to you, the American consumer, look at this. Okay, what are we talking about? Total tariff cost paid by Americans, $231 billion with a B. Per household, we're talking about a little bit less than $2,000 per household. Woof. And that's just between February 2025 and January 2026. Now, you know, I spoke about the tariffs, right? But it's not just the tariffs where the bill is coming due, right? It's about the war in Iran as well. And look here, okay, again, look at the allies. Net approval, Trump's handling of Iran. Look at this. In the UK, 50 points underwater right into the Atlantic Ocean. That's what we're talking about. But you think that's low? Look at Japan. Look at Japan right into the Pacific Ocean, 57 points underwater. But again, you ain't seen nothing yet because the Italians, look at the Italians. Trump's handled.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, they can hate Trump all they want, but all their politicians love Trump. All their politicians do what Trump says behind the scenes. So you guys can hate. You can hate Trump all you want, but you are subservient to America.
Of Iran, 70 points underwater. You never see numbers like this. You never see numbers like this. But our allies pretty much all agree they do not like Trump's handling of Iran. And look at this. The median of 36 foreign countries, 54 points underwater. Oy, oy, oy. And you know what? It's having an impact here at home as well. Look at this. Look at Trump's approval rating. Look at him. Okay, Trump net approval on the issues, the economy, which was a strength during term number one. He was 6 points above water. I do love Henry Winkler. I love the font. 6 points above water. Now, what are we talking about? 20 points underwater. Down we go. Down we go. And on foreign policy, look at the decline. He wasn't in too hot a shape back in June of 2018, 9 points underwater. But now, Trump is 22 points underwater, right into any body of water that you want to think of. He's down there with the Little Mermaid. That's really the bottom line. And you know what? It's not just about the public opinion, right? Again, let's go back to the cost. Let's go back to the cost. Look at this, the military spending. Look at this, U.S. military spending on the war. About or even more than $72 billion.
Guys, it'll add jobs for arms manufacturers. Guys, it'll add jobs for arms manufacturers. Now, this is the thing about bullets versus butter, right? If you spend money on bullets, that money gets detonated. But if I spend that money on, say, like a housing building, that building remains for 30 years, providing value. So spending money on weapons is dumb as fuck. It doesn't increase the capital of the country. It expends it. Why do people pretend that breaking windows is good for the economy? It's not.
$72 billion. Now, I will point out, this probably will add some jobs later on in the year for arms manufacturers, but I'll ask you whether or not you think that the cost is worth that, whether the cost is worth that. But of course, what about Americans themselves? How much do-re-mi? How much do-re-mi are we really talking about? Well, how about this? The cost of the Iran war on Americans, the gas hikes, the food, etc. We're talking, get this, about $134 billion, perhaps even more than that, and that's at a cost of $100 per household. It's this type of stuff that really just gets me very hot and heated. So, Maury, if you would. Oh, yeah.
I don't think this guy has an actual human emotion.
A limited edition Dr. Pepper creamy coconut. This will cool me down.
I hear the throat noise.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Thank you, Maury. Anyway, now I'm energized and ready to go, and I think the hit of caffeine will also help me. Look at this. Again, we spoke about it earlier. It's not just about tariffs. It's not just the war in Iran. How about tourism? Total visitors dropped by 4 million in 1 year. From 2024, it was 72.3 million. Now, look at this. Whoop! 68.3 million. 68.3 million. And you know where we've hit the hardest? It's our neighbors to the north. It's our neighbors to the north. Look, Canadian visits. Canadian visits. Woo! Down to the St. Lawrence River. That's what we're talking about in 2025. From 2024, down to 22%. Down 22%. And it's an impact on U.S. jobs. And it's concentrated, tends to be concentrated in a few places. But look at this. Fewer Canadian visits means fewer U.S. jobs. We're talking about 14,000 to 42,000 fewer jobs. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a real loss of jobs here. And you know what? We're talking about tourist spending. Do-re-mi. Do-re-mi. Fa sol la ti do. Look at this. We're talking about less of this stuff. Less of this stuff. Less do-re-mi being spent. Less do-re-mi being spent. And by the way, I just love a $2 bill. I love a $2 bill. I don't know if this comes across on camera, but look at this. Look at this. The Declaration of Independence sign. That's what it's all about here in our 250th anniversary. And you know what? The tourist spending? Look at this. Loss in it. $8.4 billion. And of course, you have to add it all up. You have to add it all up. And you know what? All right, we're going to add it all up. I got a nice little calculator. Here we go. Here we go. Yes. So we got 231 billion, 134 billion, and then 8.4 billion. And what does it come to? What does it come to? Well, let's take a look here. The total cost, $373 billion.
Just so you know, chat, it was estimated that Bernie Sanders' program to have free college at all state universities and all historically black colleges and universities is $60 billion more per year of spending on college. So you take whatever we're spending now and you add $60 billion to that, that would be tuition-free college at state universities, public universities, and historically black colleges and universities. So $60 billion per year. So the Iran war and the tariffs and the damage of Trump's policies is greater than 6 years of free college for all. And that's only in 1 year. I mean, less than 1 year. He's only been president since January 20th of 2027. Excuse me, 2025. So it's like a year and a half of his policies. We could have had 6 years of free college. So whenever somebody's like, how are you going to pay for it? How the fuck did we pay for this? Trump is back to posting this shit, Mike. Isn't this AI? Like, isn't this AI? Like an AI image of him getting a bunch of Europe's leaders together to show a map where the United States has Greenland and Canada. Also, and this is embarrassing, and maybe someone could explain to me, why don't they just have all of this be one American flag? Like, why do they still have the different regions? You know what I mean? Like, if it's all contiguous, why are there like different regions where there's a different American flag? Should it just be one big American flag?
$173 billion. That's between the tariffs, the Iran war, and tourism. We are talking about, get this, $2,784 per household. That's what we're talking about, $373 billion. Now, of course, this is just an estimate, but I believe that this gets us into the ballpark of what we're talking about. Now, you know, yes, we're talking about green. We're talking about green. We're talking about money. But it's not just about the money that we have potentially that has been cost. It's not just about the bill that's coming due. What we're talking about here is places that we could be spending this money if you are not a fan of the tariffs, not a fan of the Iran war, not a fan of the loss in tourism. Here are some ideas where that money could be spent. Where could this money be spent? What it can buy, fund. Well, for $373 billion for the government, we could be talking about 2 or more years of education department funding, which, of course, the funding of the education department's been going down. Now, of course, there are plenty of Republicans who don't like the education department, so maybe they like that the funding is going down. But what about you, the average American? Well, $2,784 per household. We're talking about 3 to 4 months of food for the median household. My goodness gracious. Now, folks, I've taken you through, this is the total cost, the total bill for the Iran war, for tourism, for tariffs. If you like what you saw, leave a comment in the comments section, and also leave a comment to tell me what should we cover the next time around. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Do you guys feel like you got your value? Do you feel like you got value for your $2,884 for the Donald Trump presidency? Do you feel like you're doing well?
I got some math to be done.
I feel like I want to hate Harry Enten, but it seems like somehow like he's so nerdy that it wraps around to becoming like, it's like a pug. You know what I mean? Like, pugs are ugly as fuck. They're twisted, mutated, inbred, hideous little creatures. But they're so ugly that they become cute. You know what I mean? Where it's like, aw, they're cute. That's how he is with personality. He's like the pug. He's got like the equivalent of a pug personality. Pug slander, excuse me. I'm giving them the highest praise. That somehow it wraps around to them being awesome again. I have to tell you, chat, I like animals in general. I like almost every single dog I've ever met. There's like a handful of dogs, and I've met a lot of vicious animals in my time. And most of the time I was like, I know why you're mad. The millionaires don't want to spend their money, so they're paying what? T-Rex sells for $50 million, becoming the most expensive dinosaur fossil ever auctioned. We gotta tax these guys. We gotta tax these guys. Can we tax these guys and put the T-Rex skeleton in a museum? Instead of they put it on their yacht or whatever the fuck? All right, I wanted to show you this, guys, which is Hassan, please sue MOREPEGASUS. Can you do it, please? Hassan, if you won't do it, can you sign your rights over to me and I'll pay for it? And then I get all the winnings. It's like, I'll sue on your behalf and I'll win the money that you would be owed. Just sell me your rights to sue these guys and I'll sue them on your behalf. And you just show up to the, you have to show up to the depositions and shit, but sign over your rights to these claims and I'll sue all these fuckers and I'll become a millionaire.
So Hassan is back, claiming he never talks about his
Listen to this guy's voice. Holy shit.
haters. He just never mentions them. And he's honestly got to be rage baiting at this point. Buddy, you talk about them every single day of your life, even more than me. Like, I at least cover other shit. You talk about it.
What do you guys think his blood level is at? 50? 25? What's a healthy amount? It's like 300, right? What's a healthy amount of tea? Is it 300? Or is it 100? He's at like 20, right? I think 100 is healthy, but kind of low, right? It's like, is it 250 and up? What is the number? 400-ish? Mike, what is a healthy amount of shilling for subs? Oh, yeah. I haven't shilled for subs in forever. Like a week. Chat, if you enjoy the content, please help my number go up by subscribing. And thank you, Dr. Braidslug, for the tier 3, brother, for 64 months. You're the best.
Every day without a beat, dude. He's made more than fucking 5,000 videos if you put all his streams together. You should be arrested for cyberstalking, pal. That was a joke because he says it about me. Don't worry, I'm not regarded. So Hassan is back, claiming he never talked
on. Sign me over your Singapore lawsuit rights. Please, please, please. I want to clean out MOREPEGASUS bank accounts. Sign it over to me. I'll do it. I'll do it. Okay? Sign over your rights to me. I'll pay for all the lawsuits and I'll collect all the winnings. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. I got my mom to stop watching Breaking Points and tune into you. Oh, I gotta remember people's moms are watching me and I gotta be more chill. I gotta be more chill. All right, what else did I want to talk about today? Oh God, the ICE shit. This stuff is like, oh, before we get into that, Lindsey Graham's sister.
The Senate seat.
You guys remember how I had that argument with the chatter yesterday? Young Spinach, thank you for the 5 bomb. Holy shit. Jaeger Larson, thank you for the 5 bomb. Enforcer Kogami, thank you for resubbing. Can we get a hype trade going, chat? Remember how I argue with that chatter? They're like, it'll take forever to replace him. And I was like, no, we'll appoint him immediately. It'll be done by the end of the week. Well, they appointed his sister 5 minutes after the stream ended.
It was opened by the sudden and tragic passing of Lindsey Graham over the weekend. Right now, the Senate is back in session with Graham's colleagues currently speaking, remembering his more than 30 years in Congress. You can also see Graham's desk draped in black, covered with flowers. This morning, President Donald Trump urged the South Carolina governor to pick Graham's younger sister, Darlene, as a, quote, fabulous tribute to Lindsey, who loved her dearly, end quote. Darlene Graham-Nordone has also has the backing of the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, and of South Carolina's other senator, Tim Scott. Darlene was close to her brother, having been raised by him after the death of both of their parents when she was a young teen.
I can remember the day my father passed away, standing in the living room of that house, absolutely scared to death. And Lindsey wrapped his arms around me and promised me that he would always be there for me and always take care of me. And I can assure you he's done that. He has never let me down. When I needed Lindsey, he put my interest ahead of his own. In politics, he has done the same thing, putting the country's interest ahead of his own political.
When has that ever happened? When has that ever happened? Give me a fucking break.
Interest.
Of all the things that have happened in my life, her turning out so well is the highlight of it. If she took a role on, she would be a great representative of our country. I can't think of a better person to represent our country in an event than my sister.
We meet in sadness over the loss of one of South Carolina's greatest sons. Yet we also gather together to celebrate what this self-described poor boy from a small town, rural town in South Carolina accomplished.
You see how fast they can move? Do you see how fast the Republicans can move? Like, you see how fast? A DSA wants to take a year to deliberate whether they should endorse AOC. Meanwhile, they're like, oh, Lindsey's dead, his sister's senator in 5 minutes. You know, the ability to like take bold, decisive action is a big advantage.
Through grit, determination, and character for his state, for his country, and for his world.
Isn't McMaster a Democrat? No.
Lindsey Graham recognized the greatness of America
How the fuck would he be
and
a
her
Democrat?
obligations to a dangerous world. Lindsey Graham recognized the seriousness of his work, but also the value of humor and a lighthearted spirit. Lindsey Graham understood the hopes, dreams, and needs of his state and delivered for his state every time. Presidents, paupers, famous or forgotten, he treated us all the same. We have seen him attack evil and injustice and embrace friendship and the common good with equal fervor and strength. Yes, we are going to miss Lindsey, but we will always remember his quickness, his laugh, and what he has done for us and the world. As he described himself, this poor boy from a little town in South Carolina. Today, under the law, it's my duty and honor to name someone to serve in the place of this irresistible man, this irreplaceable man, this extraordinary man.
They're like, he's so irreplaceable. We replaced him with his sister in 5 minutes.
For the remainder of his term. Lindsey took care of his little sister in years long departed. It's my honor to ask his little sister, Darlene Graham, to finish his work for him now. And by the way, Darlene, I don't know if I told you, but after we spoke on the phone in the wee hours of Sunday morning, and you agreed to serve through tears, earlier, I had wondered what you would say, and I was humbled by your quickness to see the duty that you had to serve. And I called the president afterwards, and he thought it was a great idea. And I'm sure that everyone here does as well. Darlene, little sister, come forward, please.
Thank you, Governor, and just bear with me as I try to get through this. But first, I just want to say one thing I've never heard Lindsey described as is...
Like, she has like I'm looking at her Wikipedia, and it's like, she has him as a bro, you know, she has her brother. Oh, by the way, Hype Train chat. Excuse me, Hype Train. What was I saying? Oh, thank you for all the support. You guys are the best. Her job was, she became commissioner and agency head of South Carolina's Commission for the Blind. That's it? That's her first job? She's 62 years old. Her first job was in 2019? What? Which administers vocational rehabilitation, independent living, and blindness prevention programs for South Carolinians who are blind or have low vision. She also serves on the South Carolina State Workforce Development Board and its South Carolina Works Management Committee. AKA, she got a bunch of no-show fucking government positions because her brother's a senator. Cool. Glad we don't have anybody who's an expert in any of these jobs. In 2026, she was president-elect of the National Council of State Agencies for the Blind, planning to start her term in January 2027. By 2002, Nordone had appeared in a television advertisement for Lindsey's campaign in that year's Senate election. She continued to assist in his subsequent campaigns, discussing her childhood in 2014 to 2026. Nordone supported her brother's campaign for president in 2016, introducing him in his first campaign speech. By 2008, she had worked in the South Carolina Vocational Rehabilitation Department. She helped coordinate a work-from-home program for adults with severe disabilities for Time Warner. God, what an embarrassment. Mike, the dinosaur bones sold for double the opening bid? Jeez.
We begin today's show with the fatal shooting of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, the 52-year-old father, husband, small business owner, originally from Mexico, killed by an ICE agent last Tuesday in Houston, Texas, during his early morning commute to work at a construction site. First-hand accounts from the men who were also in his van that morning continue to refute claims by ICE officials that Araujo allegedly posed a threat to the agents and attempted to ram them with his van. The three men are currently detained by ICE and are facing deportation. They're all reportedly undocumented from Mexico and had lived in the U.S. for decades. The New York Times reports two of them spoke at length with Democratic Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, whose district includes Houston, and told her that the shot that killed Araujo was fired into the front passenger side window. One of the men is Araujo's younger brother, Victor. Victor Salgado Araujo. The Department of Homeland Security last week acknowledged that Lorenzo Araujo was targeted by mistake and that federal agents were in fact searching for a different person. This all comes as his family and advocates are demanding an independent investigation amidst fears the Trump administration will attempt to conceal or tamper with evidence. ICE says none of the agents involved were wearing body cameras at the time of Araujo's killing. The New York Times reports there have been at least 22 shootings involving federal immigration officers since Trump returned to office. 6 people, including 3 U.S. citizens, have been killed. This all comes as the White House has demanded an increase in immigration detentions, ordering ICE officials to make at least 2,000 arrests per day. The end of June, beginning of July, there were 10,000 arrests in 5 days. For more, we go to Washington, D.C., where we're joined by Juan Pro.
So basically, they're just grabbing anyone who looks brown off the street.
CEO of LULAC, the largest and oldest Latino civil rights organization in the United States. Juan, thanks so much for joining us. You were there in Houston. Now you're in Washington. Can you talk about what we understand at this point happened to Lorenzo Araujo?
Well, Amy, thank you so much for having me, and good morning, Juan. I think, it's been widely reported. My perspective is that ICE was casing Magnolia Park, which is a 97% Hispanic community. They were hunting for Latinos. They saw a brown man, a Latino man, driving a work truck, and they followed suit. We all know now what the deadly consequences of that are. And ICE has been, walking back every statement that they've made. They said initially it was a targeted enforcement action. They said that he used his vehicle as a deadly weapon. They said that, the officers acted basically in self-defense. And they've now retracted, obviously, that he was not the target. But then they stated that there were 2 other men that were targeted, and they let slip that those men were of Guatemalan descent. But everyone in that van was actually a Mexican national. There was no damage to the front end of the vehicle, the back end of the vehicle, the side panels. There's a black skid mark from the black SUV that they used to pin that car to the sidewalk. And I think most egregious of all those things was the fact that once he was on the ground prone, we've seen the videos, we've seen his cries for help. He knew that he was dying. They waited almost 20 to 30 minutes to get him an ambulance to take him to the hospital. And in that time, they took all of his personal identifiable information off of his person. So when he was admitted into the hospital, they admitted him as a John Doe. Now, the family was there. Ronaldo was there. He was on site. I've seen the text messages with the FBI and the ICE agent between the 2 men. And they really just strung him along for hours until finally sending him to the hospital. Family had a hard time even finding him, because when they arrived at the hospital, they said that there was no Lorenzo Salgado Araujo in their manifest, in their records. It took several hours more for them to make the connection between the 2 men. And he wasn't told that his father passed away until 3 o'clock, more than 6 hours later.
So basically, they killed an innocent man. After they shot him, they made sure he died by denying him medical care. I mean, I think the best way to understand this is first-degree murder. And, in our laws, right now in America, first-degree murder is oftentimes punished with the death penalty. And obviously, in general, I'm against the death penalty as a punishment for crimes. However, I do think there should be an exception for those that use state power to abuse our rights, because they're being given trusted authority. So if they're going to mete out death to the innocent and then refused, I mean, even if the guy was guilty of being an illegal immigrant, even if he had committed violence on the police, he still should have been taken to the hospital immediately. Immediately. When he's no longer a threat, when he has been disabled, he has been wounded, he should go to the hospital immediately.
And sadly, because he was admitted as a John Doe, they then family had to go through extra hoops. They had to do a biometric forensics examination to confirm he is who we always knew he was, Lorenzo. And they didn't actually get the final determination, which was that he was killed, and it was a homicide, until the following day, almost 24 hours later. A really tragic event, and it was a senseless murder on the streets of Houston.
And Juan Proaño, what's been the involvement of the Houston Police Department in this? Houston Police Chief Noe Diaz was supposed to meet with the FBI.
Well, we've been working very closely with the District Attorney's Office, with Sean Tier. I was there at the initial meeting. I found him to be very sincere in his condolences to the family. I found him to be very much a straight shooter and honest. And he flat out told me that they would be doing an independent investigation. They would be moving forward aggressively in doing so. But the main limiting factor was going to be cooperation of the federal agencies involved. There are multiple strings of investigation. So now we have the District Attorney General that's doing an investigation. You have the FBI that's doing an investigation. You have the DHS Inspector General that's doing an investigation. And the last investigation to be announced recently was that of Mayor Whitmer. For days and days and days, he refused to act, saying that they had no purview over the shooting because HPD basically was not involved. And while that may be true, the fact of the matter is that a resident of Houston was killed on Canal Street. And my understanding is whenever there's a shooting, whenever there's a murder, the police actually investigate. So I'm glad that they are now moving towards a full investigation. But my expectation is that their investigation will similarly be hampered by DHS, by the federal agencies, and we already know 6 days later, a week now basically since his senseless death, that they have turned over nothing at all. No evidence, not the van, not his possessions, nothing at all.
And why weren't the agents wearing body cameras? Haven't federal authorities promised to equip ICE agents with body cameras?
Well, they certainly have all the money and all the resources in the world to do that. $170 billion allocation through the big, beautiful bill, another $70 billion to help carry through funding through the end of President Trump's term. My understanding is that certain states have different regulations. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, they're required to actually have body cam footage. This is Texas. It's a red state. They clearly have been slow walking the process and will probably fight it tooth and nail. So it's something that should be a national mandate at this point. Police officers are required to do so. ICE agency has, it went from 12,000 to 22,000 employees. There's absolutely no reason from a financial perspective, from a functional or implementation perspective, that they couldn't do this. And certainly our country would benefit from the transparency that would come from this.
And can you talk about Greg Abbott, the well-known Trump ally Texas governor, how he has weighed in on this, Juan Proaño?
He's been silent. I mean, he has said nothing about it. Paxton has been on vacation in Europe. He has said nothing about it at all. Representative Sylvia Garcia has been an incredible advocate for the family, and the Houston community is rallying around her and rallying around the Salgudo family as well. And so what you would expect, Amy, silence from the right, outrage from our progressive democratic community, and Latinos have been rising up. They've been rising up out in the community in Houston. We ran a petition that has over 165,000 people who signed it. I'd encourage folks to go to the lulac.org website.
I don't have any faith that any politician is going to hold ICE accountable. Okay, I'm going to just ask you this question. Let's say you have two politicians. One politician says, I'm going to hold ICE accountable. I want to abolish ICE, and I'm running my campaign in order to do that. Or you have politician two who thanks ICE, votes to increase funding for ICE, and actively argues against abolishing ICE. Which politician do you think is probabilistically more likely, like, you know, obviously nothing's 100%, But which politician do you think is more likely to get you accountability for ICE? The actively pro-ICE candidate or the active anti-ICE candidate who organizes their political career around the anti-ICE out? I want you to guess, I want you to make a probabilistic guess. Now, maybe neither of them will, right? Because there's going to be fights. There's going to be people that fight for ICE, There's a strong pro-ICE block. But which one of them is going to do it? Yeah, I don't know. It's a toughie. I think I'm going to go ahead and spend 5 minutes voting for the pro-abolishing ICE candidate. I think that might make it, the odds of ICE going away happen more likely, I don't know, though. I don't know. It's a toughie. It's close,
Site to do the same. Lorenzo's family has been fortunate enough to...
That's as nice as I can get. Fuck, that's as nice as I can get. God damn it, chat. That's as nice as I can get. I can't get any nicer than that. That's the best I could do.
To raise $500,000 on GoFundMe, but that will not go very far. Lorenzo was the primary provider for his family. He was paying and has paid for his three young sons to go through university, and he still has one that's in university. And so I don't believe that there will be justice here. There's nothing that will bring him back, and the only thing that we can hope for is full accountability.
And Juan, what about the three men who were in the van with Lorenzo Salgado? What's their situation right now?
So they are in, they're in Conroe, Texas, and so, we have been engaged with them. I was actually on with Ruby Powers last night, and we were chatting. So she's representing Victor. The other two men have a different attorney. Initially, they were being pressured to sign self-deportation orders. We talked to the families and discouraged them from doing so, but it was a significant amount of pressure. My initial sense was that they were inclined to do so, first and foremost because they are undocumented, second of all because they have mixed status family households, and we're concerned about bringing any additional legal perjury, prosecution, if you will, against their own family members. And in a way, it could have been the easy way out for them. But the fact of the matter is that we need them to stay in the United States. They are witnesses to a crime, and the only witnesses to what actually happened on that day. Of all the video footage that we've collected, nothing actually shows the actual shooting itself. And so that's one thing that we lack in this particular case.
And Juan Perano, before we go, we're going to go up to Biddeford, Maine for our next segment. But you are the CEO of the largest and oldest Latino civil rights organization in the United States. You represent the whole country. And yet another Latin American immigrant, this person, 26 years old, apparently had work authorization. Not that that should be an issue when it comes to being shot dead in the streets, was shot dead as he drove, the father of a 3-year-old, as he drove to work. Your final comments on reeling from this one in Houston, this killing, to what's happened in Biddeford.
Well, thank you, Amy. I have to tell you that these both have hit me really hard. Lorenzo was 1 year younger than I am. He was 52. I'm 53. Joan in Biddeford, Sebastian, is Colombian. My mother's from Colombia. My family is from Colombia. 26 years old, as you said, a father of a young girl, 3 years old, and a beautiful wife. And it's a senseless tragedy. The same circumstances, Amy. He was initially targeted by mistake, okay? The officers were not in any jeopardy at all. They actually were the aggressors here, trying to open the vehicle, as he plainly said he was trying to actually stop. The fear in the community is prevalent.
Oh man, they got this hardened MS-13 terrorist, huh, guys?
It's my honest belief, and if you take a look at the numbers, that they are targeting Latino men.
I'm looking, chat. Some chatters sent me some images from various ICE killings. and I'm trying to determine if I want to share it now or not. You know, original reporting. And sorry that I've seemingly been distracted. I'm looking at blood stains and whatnot on the other monitor, and I'm balancing whether or not I should show that.
Of all the men, of all the people currently in detention, 80 to 90% of them are Hispanic men, predominantly from Mexico, Honduras, Venezuela, Nicaragua. It is the majority, significant majority, and the escalation has been significant. Biddeford is a small town. It has 22,000 people. It has about 550 Hispanics. If they are hunting immigrants in Biddeford, Maine, and in Houston, just imagine what they're doing across the country. It has been underreported since the killing of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Let's be clear about that. You mentioned early on, right? 2,000 men, 2,000 detentions over the course of a week, 2,000 per day. But we haven't raised this enough. It is a critical moment in this country. We are not leading. This is not leadership, and it is time to demand change.
Juan Perano, we thank you for being with us. CEO of LULAC, the oldest, largest Latino civil rights organization in the United States, joining us from Washington, D.C. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a...
I don't even know what to say, chat, you know? I don't even know what to say. You know, before the Trump administration, I was one of those people who was always saying that there is a possibility they do exactly what they're saying. Like, one of the main ways the left, you know, interpreted Donald Trump was, it won't be that bad. You know, if you watched a lot of other left-wing commentators, they'd be like, it can't do that. A lot of liberals even, they would be like, there's no way. You can't pass. That would cost $150 billion. They can't do that. And then they did. This is another killing that took place in Portland.
This is Democracy Now! Democracy.
And this is the where I got the original reporting. Here's AOC's response.
ICE killings in Maine and Texas.
I'm still taking a look at all of the details, but once again, this is not. I said this a couple of weeks ago that I would not be surprised if when ICE funding started up again, that we would start to see more civilian deaths at the hands of ICE. And that's exactly what has happened. When you open the trenches with all of this money that Republicans have now funneled to ICE without any oversight or anything, you're going to see abuses of power. And that's exactly what's happening. You notice that, you know, we didn't see things like this happening with the same degree of regularity when we froze the ICE funds. Right. And now that they've been opened up again, we're seeing multiple incidents now. So.
Right. Thank you, Congresswoman. Congresswoman, any reaction to the ICE killings in Maine and Texas?
One of the things that's also happening that obviously, I'm going to just say the quiet part out loud, is a lot of the reason why it feels like there's these conversations happening and nothing, you know, and it's frustrating and, it's just early on in the cycle, right? It is July of 2026. That's a slow time in politics, you know? We've got the last couple primaries happening, but it's the summer. People are out and about. They're doing their thing. It is what it is. You know, if you're talking and thinking about politics right now, you're a fucking weirdo, okay? And the fact that we're seeing here and we're looking at these policies and we're frustrated and then we're angry, all you could do is direct action. All we could do is protest. This is what happened in Susan Collins' office.
In Maine, another place where ICE is operating with no authority whatsoever, but absolute intensity. ICE agents killed another person, unfortunately.
Small white car being corralled by two men trying to stop it from losing control around the intersection. And
yeah, drove toward the officer and tried to flee is a narrative that doesn't make sense. And it's also what you hear from local news when the local news just places a higher order of emphasis on the official organs of the government and their press releases, even after the 700th time that ICE has lied. ICE has done this over and over again. This just happened. This just happened in Texas. There's also video footage of the event once again. It's horrifying. They not only shoot him and kill him, but they slam his lifeless body and his head into the concrete afterwards. 26-year-old man in Maine. His wife and child were in the car. He had the proper paperwork to work in the United States of America, for the record. They shot him, they slammed his head into the concrete, his lifeless body, and then they handcuffed his lifeless body. Angus King has come out and confirmed that the man shot and killed in Maine by ICE was not even the target of the warrant. Even if he was the target of a warrant, by the way, this is disproportionate use of force. This is completely unacceptable. Gestapo, abolish, punish. We have to maintain law and order. As long as ICE exists, there is no law and order. It's that simple. How many murders a week do we have to get to before people start saying, okay, this is actually up? Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wade Mullen has informed me that the Boston office of the DHS Inspector General has taken over the investigation in the Biddeford shooting in cooperation with the FBI. There you go, another cover-up. You, Susan Collins. Update. New video shows ICE agents running alongside the car. The video does not show the agents in danger of being run over. Agents shot and killed the driver. Witnesses say they heard 4 shots. The video is already the lifeless body going in circles in the car. Oh, they had shot him by the time that car was going in circles. Is that what you're saying? Anthony Emerson says, just a reminder that the state legislature passed a law prohibiting local police from working with ICE, but Janet Mills refused to sign it, so it won't go into effect until the end of this month. Yeah, his 3-year-old was in the car, and so was his wife. And they dragged his lifeless body out of the car and handcuffed the corpse. Standard ICE procedure.
And then that's when he stopped. ICE agent got out, tried to open the door and had a difficult time, but eventually opened it and pulled the guy out. His face was bloody, his head was bloody. And I clearly heard the victim say, I tried to stop. Clearly heard him say that. The ICE agent that shot him walked right in front of me. And of course, I was emotional, and I just let him have it. And he looked at me and he said, you tried to run me over or something to that effect. I don't remember his exact words. There was another ICE agent with him that was trying to comfort him, and they walked away.
Once it's established that like one ICE agent can get away with claiming that, you know, they were in fear of their life because there was a potential like vehicular manslaughter incident, you know, everyone else tries it. Susan Collins' office has had to have heavy police presence apparently because people are protesting outside her office.
You gonna arrest the criminal, or you gonna arrest people? Are you guys gonna go arrest the murderer down the street? Are you gonna do your jobs? No, we're not. We work for him. Is this private property? Yeah, is this private property? Is that a public forum? You guys sleep at night. Vote her out! Vote her out! Vote her out! Arrest her out! Kill her! Vote her out! Vote her out! Vote her out!
Anyway, this is what Troy Jackson's response was.
Yeah, we just got the sad news that it looks like there's been yet another deadly shooting, and ICE was involved. This time, it was right in our backyard in Biddeford. My heart is with the people of Biddeford, the people of Maine.
Honestly, I feel like Troy Jackson is the best of the options that are likely to prevail. And, you know, I don't think he's as charismatic. I don't think he's as good of a speaker as we need. But his heart seems to be in the right place. He's been coming in our direction on major issues. So I think he's got a good shot. I don't know if you guys saw, but Editor Mentum posted something positive about Shaw. And then almost immediately, Tammy Duckworth came out to do an anti-endorsement. I don't know if you guys saw that. The kind of like the guy that we yelled about. I yelled about Editor Mentum supporting him last week. And then Tammy Duckworth came out and did an anti-endorsement against the centrist, which I don't think I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen a centrist like Tammy Duckworth come out and condemn a centrist candidate. Like it was like Energimentum threw something out into the ether, and the universe was like, yeah, he's always wrong. And they were like, zam, Tammy Duckworth came in. And it was pretty fucking incredible.
You know, they need answers. We all need answers, and we deserve to know what happened here. So we're going to go down to be with the community in Biddeford at Mechanics Park at noon. If you're able to, please join us.
David J. Beer says, looks like another racial profiling incident gone wrong. Second time in as many weeks that ICE agents have killed someone who they were not even targeting. If they were not important enough to seek out specifically, how could they be important enough to kill if they fled? Reliable witness, though. Mullen told him the man was the target of a deportation effort. Mullen later called King with new information he had received, a spokesman for the senator said. I mean, how can you see what's happening here and recognize it as anything but straightforward fascism? I don't understand. It's fascism abroad with what Israel is doing. It's fascism abroad with what we're doing in Iran. And it's fascism at the domestic level with what ICE is doing. It's just like a perma-military occupation led by some of the dumbest individuals, some of the dumbest, most racist individuals who have no business running around with weapons, let alone, you know, training those guns on people and shooting them and killing them. There's no accountability whatsoever. This is expected of them. And the federal government comes in and protects these agency in its entirety because this is a part of the job. Make no mistake, this is very much a part of the job. This is very much a part of the expectations that ICE is supposed to be this violent, ruthless, racist paramilitary force that's completely unaccountable, that just goes around and targets random people that they declare on the spot are enemies of the state that deserve lethal intervention. And anytime this happens, local law enforcement wants to cover it. Local law enforcement obviously has jurisdiction to cover this murder, and yet the American government intervenes. The federal government kicks in and says, no, you can't touch it. You can't touch these people because it's their job. There is a little bit of honesty in that. The problem is their job is evil. Their job is to do this kind of violence. It's unacceptable and we have to stop it. That's why it's obviously unbelievably important that you join these protest movements. You join ICE Watch in your communities. I don't know what else to say, man. A man who was ordered to leave the U.S. was shot and killed in the car. That's not even true. No, they literally said it was the wrong guy. Now they're making up for it by saying, no, never mind. He was also, he is the target, actually.
An ICE officer fatally shot a Mexican migrant in Houston, with authorities later admitting that the victim was not being sought in an enforcement operation. CBS News immigration correspondent Camilo Montoya Galvez joins me now from New York. Camilo, what do we know?
Hi, Major. Notably, more than 9 hours after this latest fatal shooting involving an ICE officer, this time in Maine, the Department of Homeland Security has yet to issue a public comment or statement, and so we do not yet have the official accounting of what actually transpired this morning in Maine. As you know, this is the latest fatal shooting involving an ICE officer. We saw a fatal ICE-involved shooting in Houston, Texas last week, and that took the life of a Mexican immigrant who had no criminal record. In this case in Maine, we are told by local authorities that the person who died was a Colombian immigrant in his 20s. We do not know whether he was in the country with a deportation order or without permanent legal status. According to immigration advocates, as you underscored, he had work authorization that allowed him to work in the U.S. legally. The Department of Homeland Security has yet to comment on that. What we do know, according to the...
Oh, so he had a work authorization. Why does it matter? It doesn't, but it makes it even worse. It's already completely unacceptable across the board. Even if he was illegal, it's still unacceptable. What are we doing? That's not the rules. Nobody said it's appropriate to just like go up and start doming random brown people. And yes, they kill U.S. citizens as well. That's why we have to put an end to this goddamn nonsense.
Office of the Maine Attorney General, which is also conducting its own investigation into this fatal shooting this morning, Major, is that according to ICE, the subject who was shot attempted to flee that operation in the direction of an officer, and that prompted...
Guys, they tried to flee in the direction of the officer, which is not the standard for deadly force, by the way. All right, everybody, I gotta go. I'm so sorry to call it early, but that's just the way it goes. I have to record. I'm going to be recording the latest reaction podcast on Tradcaths. So make sure that you are, if you aren't subscribed to the podcast, go check it out. Thank you so much for all your guys' support. Hate to drop off a little bit early, but got to go record the pod. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for all the support. I'm trying not to crash out in frustration. So about certain tendencies online, and it's like my goal for the next 6 months needs to just be grow as much as possible, have the best fucking vibes, and then later, just wait for everybody who's anti-AOC to end up in the Jimmy Dore ghetto, right? Like, that's what's gonna happen, right? All the people who are like trying to double and triple down on being anti-AOC, they're gonna self-fucking segregate into the Jimmy Dore ghetto, into the, what's the other guy, the fucking comedian? The crank comedian who's a sex assaulter, who's British. Somebody in chat has to know. Russell Brand, thank you. That's exactly the name. The Russell Brand, Brianna Joy Gray, Jimmy Dore ghetto, and they'll be fucking irrelevant. And I'm so excited for that. I just need to survive without alienating everybody. I need to do the Hassan Piker syndrome where I'm like, oh yeah, I think AOC is a good idea, and just try to grow as much as I can and be positive. And you know, like, obviously everybody who's anti-AOC is gonna fail. Like, and I just need to keep my and not be so angry about people being wrong on the internet, right? Like, it's a bad strat. So we're gonna go check that out. And all those people will do what they do for Chris Rabb and Summer Lee and Claire Valdez and Zoro Mamdani. They're gonna be anti-AOC. The smart ones are gonna flip and they're gonna chase clout, and the dumb ones are gonna end up in the ghetto, right? So I don't need to fight with everybody right now because the normies aren't paying attention. Only the people that have, firm ideological, egos are paying attention right now. So the best thing to do is just win on vibes. So we're going to be doing that. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever, my friends. Free Palestine. Let's get the vibes up. I'll see you soon. Peace out.